Chapter 231. Waves rise in the lake of stars. Teacher, there are waves in the myriad star lake. What happened? Qin Yun hurriedly asked when he saw Du Gui's alarmed expression. Du Gui and the other elders of the Star Xianwu Academy had the same expression on their faces. There was a trace of fear in their eyes. Lan Fengjin also hovered in the air, frowning as she looked at the waves below. She said in a deep voice, "Waves are rising in the myriad star lake. This is a bad omen, indicating that a disaster is about to descend. However, it will not be in the near future. It might be a decade or a century." Waves rise in the star lake, the 9 suns gradually fade, and only the nether sun hangs in the sky. This is an ancient prophecy. Du Gui's voice was filled with fear. In other words, the 9 suns will gradually disappear, leaving only the nether sun in the sky. The nether sun is a black sun that can devour everything. Qin Yun's heart skipped a beat. He had a nether sun martial spirit in his body. Is this true? Qin Yun looked at Lan Fengjin. For some reason, he felt an inexplicable sense of unease. Lan Fengjin took a deep breath and said, "I don't know if it's true or not, but this prophecy has been circulating in our Blue Spirit Star Palace for a long time. In other words, the 9 suns would disappear one by one. As for how long it would take, no one knew. Every time a sun disappeared, a great natural disaster would occur. When all 9 suns disappear, a black nether sun will appear. The nether sun will devour everything in the 9 wastelands." When the other students and teachers heard this, they were instantly terrified. Du Gui said, "According to the prophecy, because the 9 suns have no souls, they will gradually disappear. As for whether it's true or not, we can't be sure. Perhaps only God knows what's going on." In short, the waves in the myriad star lake are extraordinary, Lan Fengjin said. "Let's return to the Star Xianwu Academy first." Principal Bai said. At this moment, everyone was already panicking. If the 9 suns fell, then the 9 wastelands would sink into darkness. Qin Yun's mind was preoccupied as he constantly recalled Du Gui's words. The 9 suns had no soul or spirit, and he had the 9 yang divine spirit in his hands. He did not know if it had anything to do with the souls of the 9 suns. In addition, there was also the 9 yin divine soul, which was in Xie Keru's hands. "Elder Sister Grand Preceptor, what's going on? Just who are you? What is your relationship with the land of immortals?" Qin Yun felt that Xie Keru was hiding a great secret. After returning to the Heaven's Pride Academy, Qin Yun entered the small building and immediately entered his room. After closing the door, he took out the immortal graveyard diagram and placed it on the table. Then he dripped blood on it. "Big Sister Grand Preceptor, hurry up and speak." Qin Yun kept dripping blood as he kept chanting in his heart. His blood dripped onto the snow-white immortal graveyard diagram and was quickly absorbed by it. Just like that, an hour passed. Qin Yun was also extremely weak. He leaned back on the chair and absorbed the 9 suns' spiritual energy to recover his blood energy. "Looks like this won't work. I can only try putting little Mei Yin, Yuan, and my immortal graveyard diagram together. However, little Mei Yin is currently in closed-door training. I don't know when she will come out." Qin Yun had previously learned that Qi Mylin was highly valued by her teacher. She was nurtured vigorously and obtained a large amount of resources to cultivate. Qin Yun was very happy for Qi Mylin. He hoped that she could become stronger. Right now, he could only wait for Qi Mylin to come out of seclusion before contacting Xiao Yuelon to come over. He would gather the 3 immortal graveyard diagrams together and see if he could contact Xie Keru. The 9 suns had disappeared and the natural disaster had descended. This would only happen many years later. There was no point in being anxious now. To Qin Yun, defeating Xiao Yanglong within 2 years was the most important matter. "I'm currently at the 8th level martial body realm, the Golden Soul realm. If I want to step into the 9th level, I must first learn how to condense the inner supreme force." Qin Yun recalled the contents of Du Gui's guidance on cultivating the inner supreme force. The difficulty was to continuously release the Vajra inner strength and use the Vajra inner strength to wash the Vajra bone marrow. From there, the supreme force would be produced, which was also the inner supreme force. Continuously releasing the Vajra inner strength, this will consume a lot of energy. Qin Yun followed Du Gui's instructions and released the Vajra inner strength. Not long after, waves of Vajra inner strength continuously surged out from the three elemental energies and seeped into the bone marrow to refine it. In order to achieve the goal of refining, one had to completely release the Vajra inner strength and fill the bones. This kind of consumption was not an ordinary amount. During the martial arts competition, he would only be able to instantly release a surge of Vajra inner strength. Even so, the consumption was enormous. Therefore, if he wasn't particularly confident in defeating his opponent, he wouldn't casually use the Vajra inner strength. That would easily exhaust his inner strength. And now, Qin Yun was using all his strength to release the Vajra inner strength without restraint, allowing it to fill all the bones in his body. During the cultivation process, his entire body emitted a faint golden light. That was because his bones were filled with Vajra inner strength. This was also the moment when he released his strongest aura. Half an hour had passed. Qin Yun, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, slowly opened his eyes and immediately lay down. He was extremely tired. The inner force of three elemental energies had been completely drained. This was the first time in his history that he had released his inner force to the limit. Furthermore, the Vajra inner strength crazily stimulated his bones and flesh, causing his entire body to be exhausted. After such intense tempering, his bones and flesh would need a period of time to recover. Even though he was very tired, Qin Yun still had to take out some demon beast meat to eat. Otherwise, when his flesh and bones recovered, he would not be able to absorb enough nutrients. Fortunately, he had the 9-yang divine spirit and was in the Star Sun treasure tree. He could absorb even more and pure spiritual energy to recover. After a day and night, Qin Yun finally recovered to his peak. It's just an hour of extreme cultivation, and I have to rest for an entire day. No wonder so many people have been obstructed from entering the 9th stage from the 8th stage. Qin Yun thought back to it and sighed with emotion. As this was the first time he had used this method to cultivate, the Vajra bone marrow still needed to be tempered repeatedly in order to produce the inner force. Du Gui had said that people who had just stepped into the 8th level martial body would need to undergo at least dozens of such cultivation sessions in order to cultivate a little bit of the inner force. This won't do. If this goes on, I won't be able to step into the 9th level martial body within 2 years. Even if I manage to cultivate the inner force, I still have a long way to go before I can break through. Qin Yun naturally understood that if he were to follow this method of cultivation, he would not be able to break through in a short period of time. Xiao Yuelon and Yang Shi were able to step into the 9th level martial body at a very young age. They definitely would not use such a method to die. Great formation! Qin Yun suddenly thought of a solution as he secretly rejoiced. I want to set up a better 9-yang spirit convergence array. He had made one before, but the conditions were harsh when he made it, so the one he made wasn't the best. Now he had hundreds of millions of crystal coins and many high-grade bee skins. He would definitely be able to create a beast skin array. Qin Yun came to the hall and saw Lan Fengjin guiding Huizhong and company in their cultivation. It was mainly in the use of martial skills. He was very familiar with the use of martial skills and did not need to learn them in particular. For example, he had already reached the great perfection stage of the 6th-style Wind Slayer and could use the Vajra inner strength to execute it. However, he was unable to reach the acme of perfection. Some martial skills did not have this realm and could only be comprehended by oneself. Sister Lan, are there any trials in the Heaven's Pride Academy recently? If not, I have to busy myself with my own matters. Qin Yun asked. No, the Heaven's Pride Academy holds a big event every 3 months. Even if there is, it will only happen after 3 months. Don't worry and go do your own thing. Lan Fengjin said. She also knew about Qin Yun's challenge to Xiao Yang Long. Qin Yun said with a smile, "That's good. I'll go exchange for some Xian points. I have more than 200 million Xian points with me." Qin Yun, the three great Xian Wu academies, and Blue Spirit Star Palace have just made a rule. If you use magic cores to exchange for Xian points, you can only exchange for 100 million Xian points every year. Morong Darren sighed. What the hell? Qin Yun could not help but curse softly. Shuizai said, they don't need magic cores anymore. That's why they restricted the exchange. However, there are no restrictions on magical beast crystal eggs. At the very least, it's very difficult to obtain magical beast crystal eggs. Alright, I can still use the magic cores to exchange for 100 million Xian points. Qin Yun felt extremely helpless as well. He hurriedly walked out of the building to find the other instructors. There were some instructors who needed him to inscribe spatial spirit inscriptions. Once he completed the inscription, he would be able to obtain 4 Class 9 monster cores. As for the spatial spirit inscriptions he inscribed, they had been simplified by him and were considered mid-grade spatial spirit inscriptions. Even so, the instructors were very satisfied. In the morning, he had successfully carved 5 times and obtained a total of 20 Class 9 monster cores. In the center of the Star Xian Wu Academy, the Xian Point shop was very lively. As the manager here, Pan Dawei would occasionally look around the hall. The moment Qin Yun entered the Xian Point hall, he saw Pan Dawei. Pan Dawei also saw Qin Yun and led him into a VIP lounge with a chuckle. Elder Fatty, can you make an exception and let me exchange for more Xian points? Qin Yun took out 60 Class 9 monster cores and piled them on the table. Pan Dawei's round face was filled with embarrassment as he said with a sigh, Qin Yun, to be honest, the other martial academies and Blue Spirit Star Palace found out that you had exchanged for a lot of Xian points in one go. Now that you have entered the Heaven's Pride Academy, you have to go to the other martial academies to exchange for things. Therefore, they have a reason for making this rule against you. Qin Yun used a storage spirit artifact to quickly exchange for many magical beast cores. This meant that he could easily obtain a large number of Xian points. Many people felt that this method would destroy the fairness of the exchange of Xian points, so they placed restrictions on him. In fact, exchanging 100 million Xian points every year was only limited to him. That was because the vast majority of students would only be able to exchange 30 to 20 million Xian points with magical beast cores every year. When Pan Dawei said this, Qin Yun understood. All right then, I'll exchange for 100 million Xian points. Qin Yun originally had 100 million. After obtaining first place in the trial, he would be rewarded with 100 million. Now that he had exchanged for another 100 million, it would be 300 million Xian points. A Class 9 magic core could be exchanged for 5 million Xian points. Pan Dawei took 20 magic cores from the table and transferred 100 million Xian points to Qin Yun. Qin Yun, I've heard about you challenging Xiao Yang Long. If there was no restriction on you exchanging Xian points, I believe that you would be able to step into the martial Dao realm within 2 years. But now, Sai, I'm sorry, I can't help you much. Pan Dawei was also extremely helpless as he let out a long sigh. It was obvious that he also hoped to obtain a Class 9 magic core from Qin Yun. Qin Yun put away the magic core on the table and said with a smile, It's fine. The heavens will never seal off a path. Chapter 232. Internal Divine Elixir. Qin Yun had long wanted to go to the main hall of the Divine Inscription Palace to take a look. Now that he heard Pan Dawei mention it, he planned to go over and take a look in the next few days. All right, you have 300 million Xian points on hand. It could be said to be a lot. What do you plan on exchanging for? Pan Dawei asked. Qin Yun chuckled. Elder Fatty, I plan on exchanging for pills that are helpful to my cultivation. You are familiar with the items in the Xian Point store. Give me a suggestion. Pan Dawei thought for a moment and said, The Inner Divine Spirit Pill is very useful for martial artists who have just entered the 8th level martial body realm. It requires 300 million Xian points to be qualified to exchange for it. Furthermore, it requires 300 million Xian points and 100 million crystal coins. Qin Yin jumped in fright and exclaimed, "So expensive." Pandawei smiled and said, "This is a royal-grade spirit pill. What do you think?" Furthermore, the effect is very obvious. For the vast majority of people, after stepping into the 8th level martial body realm, they would need to release their inner strength to the limit more than 100 times before they could barely cultivate the inner force. If they wanted to master the release of the inner force, it would take at least a year or so. If you have the help of the Inner Gang Spirit Pill, it will only take 10 days for you to cross this stage, and it won't cause any negative effects. Qin Yin nodded. He had cultivated it once before and knew how difficult it was. Elder Fatty, how are these pills refined? It seemed to be much more difficult than inscription, and it's so expensive. He was suddenly very curious about this, so he asked. The Tao of Alchemy is based on the Tao of Inscription. If one is proficient in the Tao of Inscription, then it wouldn't be too difficult to refine pills. Pandawei finds it strange that Qin Yin doesn't know much about alchemy. Qin Yin is also secretly alarmed. Only now did he realize that alchemy and inscription are closely related. Don't be in a hurry to refine pills. This will require you to pay a huge price. Right now, the most important thing is to learn the inscriptions well. Pandawei patted Qin Yin on the shoulder and asked, "Do you want the inner divine spirit pill? If you want one, I'll go get one for you right now. There aren't many of these pills. If someone else takes it, you'll have to wait for a long time." "I want one." Qin Yin nodded. After he paid the 300 million Xin points and 100 million crystal coins, he waited for Pandawei in the VIP lounge. Moments later, Pandawei arrived and handed Qin Yin a small white bottle. He said, "Qin Yin, you can go to the Divine Inscription Palace to try your luck. There might be something you need there." Qin Yin also decided to go to the Divine Inscription Palace. He nodded and bade farewell to Pandawei. Then, he left the Xin Point store and returned to the Heaven's Pride Academy. In the Heaven's Pride Academy, there was a small building beside a small river. Lan Fengjin walked out of the building and came to the riverside. She looked at the 9 scorching suns at noon, then sat on a bench by the river, holding her chin and staring at the river in a daze. As soon as Qin Yin returned, he saw her from afar and walked over. "Sister Lan, what are you thinking about?" Qin Yin sat on the bench and asked with a chuckle, "Are you thinking about me?" Lan Fengjin rolled her eyes at him and said with a light snort, "Humph, I can't be bothered to miss you. I was thinking about the huge waves in the Myriad Star Lake. Where's second brother Morong and the others?" Qin Yin looked at the small building and asked, "They're busy cultivating. They're all in the training room practicing their martial skills. How can they be as leisurely as you?" Lan Fengjin sighed softly. It was unknown what she was sighing about. Qin Yin said, "Sister Lan, I just got an inner dipper spirit pill. After eating and refining it, I will make a trip to the Divine Inscription Palace. How do I get there?" "You want to go to the Divine Inscription Palace? I'll go with you. It'll be safer on the way, and I'm more familiar with that place." Lan Fengjin's eyes lit up as if she was looking forward to it. "Hurry up and eat the inner dipper spirit pill. I'll make arrangements for Murong Shaoren and the others in the next few days." Lan Fengjin urged as she pushed Qin Yin, who was sitting on the bench. Qin Yin entered his room and consumed the inner dipper spirit pill. He used all his strength to activate the 3 elemental energies and released the Vajra inner strength to refine the Vajra bone marrow. The use of the inner dipper spirit pill was that it could continuously and quickly replenish one's inner strength. It could allow the 3 elemental energies to always be in a full state. Furthermore, it would produce a miraculous medicinal power to eliminate the fatigue caused by the excessive stimulation of the bones and flesh. This way, he could continuously use the Vajra inner strength to attack the Vajra bone marrow. Without the assistance of this spirit pill, he could only cultivate for an hour and then rest for the entire day. It was extremely time-consuming. With the help of the inner dipper spirit pill, Qin Yin only needed 5 days to cultivate the inner supreme force. In the future, as long as he used the Vajra inner strength to attack the Vajra bone marrow, he would be able to produce a silvery white mist within the bones. That was the internal supreme force. The internal supreme force could not be used in battle for the time being because Qin Yun could only condense a tiny bit of it. Furthermore, it would be quickly absorbed by his elemental energy. He needed to use all his inner strength to attack the Vajra bone marrow in order to produce it. Psi, 300 million Shin points and 100 million crystal coins can only allow me to cultivate the inner supreme force in a short period of time. Qin Yun sighed helplessly. However, his bones and flesh had been greatly strengthened. The current him was equivalent to the middle stage of the 8th level martial body realm. The next thing he needed to do was to use the internal supreme force to nurture his inner yuan, allowing it to condense into a bead, which was the Vajra inner core. After condensing the Vajra inner core, he would be at the 9th level martial body realm. Qin Yun was extremely vexed. He needed to condense 3 Vajra inner cores. However, this would allow him to become stronger. However, it would take more time and resources. I hope the trip to the Divine Inscription Palace will bring me a pleasant surprise. Qin Yun took a shower and changed into a set of light yellow clothes before walking out of his room. Lan Fengjin was in the middle of the hall. She wore a tight blue outfit that perfectly accentuated her fiery figure. She sat on a chair with her legs crossed. She held a book in one hand and ate a big red apple in the other. Sister Lan, where are Ziyi and the others? Qin Yun also picked up the apple on the table and asked, I've arranged for them to go to the arena to compete. The arena can earn Shin points, and they need them to exchange for pills that can help them quickly improve. Lan Fengjin put away the book and finished the fruit in a few mouthfuls. Earning Shin points in the arena? Why didn't I think of that? Qin Yun's bright eyes sparkled as though he had seen a bright path. If it was anyone else, that would be fine. But you can't because everyone is afraid of you. They won't challenge you, and they won't accept your challenge. To put it bluntly, the way to earn Shin points in the arena was to bet on martial arts. With your strength, who would dare to compete with you? Lan Fengjin patted his sturdy chest and said with curled lips. Qin Yun could only sigh gloomily before following Lan Fengjin out of the Heaven's Pride Academy and headed for the Divine Inscription Palace. As the two of them flew above the myriad star lake, they could still see the churning waves on the surface of the lake. This made Lan Fengjin worried. After flying out of the myriad star lake, Lan Fengjin and Qin Yun landed on the ground. Even a martial Dao realm cultivator could not fly around in a dangerous area. If they encountered the flying magical beast that had attacked the Star Xianwu Academy, it would be extremely dangerous. Sister Lan, I want to create a great formation. When you have time, help me out. We'll do it together. Qin Yun asked as he ran behind Lan Fengjin. Lan Fengjin was a high-ranked inscription master. It would be a waste if he didn't use her, Qin Yun thought to himself. Lan Fengjin scolded with a smile. Brat, you seem to be treated like an assistant by me. To be honest, I asked you to help me refine that talisman. So, do you look down on me in your heart? Qin Yun hurriedly said, Where? Sister Lan, you are a beauty that makes my heart palpitate. Although you are not white, you are infinitely beautiful. How can I look down on you? Nonsense. Lan Fengjin smiled and spat softly. Qin Yun was speaking the truth. He dared to say anything in front of Lan Fengjin because Lan Fengjin was a very forthright woman. The main hall of the Divine Inscription Palace was the same as the first town. It was located in an area that was not under the jurisdiction of any country and was also very close to the Cloud Dragon River. The Cloud Dragon River flowed out of the Cloud Dragon mountain range and passed through an area with towering mountains on both sides. It was a very deep and large canyon. As for the main hall of the Divine Inscription Palace, it was located beside the Cloud Dragon River at the top of the tallest mountain. It was located near the Cloud Dragon mountain range in the Tian Shao Empire and was located outside the borders of the Tian Shao Empire. The gigantic mountain was called the Mysterious Spirit Mountain. The mountain was 5,000 to 6,000 meters below, and it was almost straight up. Furthermore, the wind was howling and the ice and snow were wreaking havoc. It was difficult to climb up, and even flying was not easy. Only a few thousand meters above the clouds did the huge mountain have a very large slope. It was also on this slope that many houses were built. Some were made of wood, some were made of stone, and some were made of iron. There were all kinds of houses. From afar, it looked like a towering mountain floating in the sea of clouds. There were countless buildings built on top of it. Under the illumination of the 9 suns, it was magnificent and imposing. Qin Yun followed Lan Fengjin through the snowstorm and arrived at a height of 10,000 meters. Looking at the gigantic mountain above the sea of clouds, he could not help but exclaim in admiration. As for the gigantic palace that stood at the top of the mountain, it was even more astonishing. Looking at it from afar, he felt extremely shocked. In the main hall of the Divine Inscription Palace, it looks much stronger than your Blue Spirit Star Palace. Qin Yun could not help but exclaim, "Isn't that so?" In the Martial Desolate, the Divine Inscription Palace is one of the top powers. Its branch halls are spread all over the Martial Desolate. Lan Fengjin curled her lips and said, "Compared to the Divine Inscription Palace, the Blue Spirit Star Palace is far inferior." The branch halls of the Divine Inscription Palace were all overseen by the General Director. After that, these General Directors were managed by the Great Elder of a region. For example, Zhuochuan was the Great Elder of this borderland. Zhuochuan admired Qin Yun very much, so Qin Yun felt that he would definitely reap quite a harvest this time. Lan Fengjin was very familiar with this place. She had been here twice before, but it was during the invasion of the magical beasts. Right now, to head to the Divine Inscription Palace, one needed to pass through a door. This was because there was a great formation protecting the gigantic mountain, preventing it from being attacked by the gigantic flying magical beasts. Lan Fengjin and Qin Yun passed through the entrance and entered the array formation of the Divine Inscription Mountain. Then, they flew towards the Divine Inscription Palace at the peak of the mountain. The thousands of meters above the Divine Inscription Mountain were like terraced fields. Each step was dozens of meters wide. On the side of the mountain, there were houses, and on the side outside, there were streets. It looked somewhat dangerous, but the streets were very lively. The people who came here were all people with a certain level of strength. They came here to buy all kinds of spirit artifacts, talismans, and formations. After flying for a while, Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin arrived at the Divine Inscription Palace at the peak of the mountain. This was a towering golden hall that was several hundred meters tall. Under the sunlight, it was dazzling and resplendent. Chapter 233. Divine Inscription Palace. Lan Fengjin and Qin Yun walked into the resplendent hall and sat on a chair at the side of the hall. There were also many people sitting here, as if they were waiting for someone. Some people came here to ask the Divine Inscription Palace to help them carve runes or refine weapons. They all needed to wait. Qin Yun came here to see Zhuochuan and ask him if he could exchange for some of the medicinal herbs he needed. Lan Fengjin was a high-ranked inscription master and had also passed the examination of the Divine Inscription Palace. Therefore, she had a very high status. As long as she revealed the badge of a high-ranked inscription master, she would be able to see Zhuochuan. The people from the Divine Inscription Palace had already gone to report to Zhuochuan and told them to wait here. Not long after, a young man walked over and told Lan Fengjin that Zhuochuan was free and had time to see her. Then, she and Qin Yun followed behind the young man and walked up to the second floor, arriving at a living room. The moment Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin entered, they saw Zhuochuan. Zhuochuan was the Great Elder, but he was wearing an extremely simple white robe. When he saw Qin Yun, he was slightly alarmed. Then, he walked over with a chuckle. With a head full of white hair, he did not look old at all. Instead, he looked much more energetic than many young people. "Greetings, Great Elder." Lan Fengjin greeted Zhuochuan with a smile. "Great Elder, long time no see." Qin Yun chuckled. Zhuochuan smiled as he patted Qin Yun on the head and said, "Kid, why do you have the time to come here? Have you thought it through and want to join our Divine Inscription Palace?" Qin Yun's martial spirit had recovered. Zhuochuan also knew about this matter. At that time, he was very happy and planned to go to the Star Xianwu Academy to look for Qin Yun. "Of course not. I'm restricted from exchanging Xian points, so I came to ask you if you can exchange them for something for me." Qin Yun took out 40 Class 9 magic cores and said, "Great Elder, do you have any pills that can help me raise my cultivation? I can condense internal supreme force now." Zhuo Chuan naturally knew that Qin Yun had challenged Xiao Yanglong in the Blue Spirit Star Palace. He also felt that Qin Yun had been too hasty in challenging Xiao Yanglong. The 3 Xian-level martial academies and the Blue Spirit Star Palace restrict their students and disciples from exchanging Xian points. If they were to use magic cores to exchange, they would only be able to exchange for 100 million every year. This is simply not enough. Qin Yun sighed. Zhuo Chuan looked at the pile of Class 9 magic cores on the table and nodded. If there is no such restriction, with the speed at which you obtain the magic cores, it is indeed very likely that you will be able to step into the 9th level martial body realm within 2 years. Only at the 9th level martial body realm. Qin Yun curled his lips. Lan Fengjin snorted and said, "Be content. You have reached the 9th level martial body realm at the age of 18, which is considered very fast. Xiao Yuelan started earlier than you, so her speed is normal. Xiao Yanglong was only at the 9th level martial body realm at the age of 25 and stepped into the martial Dao realm at the age of 30. Do you want to step into the martial Dao realm in 2 years?" That was what Qin Yun thought. If he did not step into the martial Dao realm, it will be difficult to defeat Xiao Yanglong. "Qin Yun, I'm going to ask around and see what kind of pills I can get for you. This will take some time, about a few hours." Zhuo Chuan said, "Keep the magic cores well and wait for my news." "All right, there's an alchemy exchange here. It's mainly for some high-level inscriptionists to discuss how to refine materials. Are you interested in participating?" "I want to go," Qin Yun immediately replied. "Sister Lan, let's go together." Lan Fengjin was also very interested. She nodded and said, "The materials refined by a high-level inscription master are all used to make top-grade spirit artifacts. As for top-grade spirit artifacts, not only do they require bone steel, some top-grade spirit artifacts also require many other special high-grade materials. Every inscription master has their own experience and insights in refining such high-grade materials." Zhuo Chuan told Lan Fengjin and Qin Yun a location before leaving in a hurry. The reason why Qin Yun had asked him for help was because he had taken a fancy to Qin Yun's inscription talent. The alchemy exchange was held in a hall on the 10th floor of the Divine Inscription Palace. The participants were all high-level inscriptionists from all over the world. They had been invited very early on. Because magical beasts had appeared during this period of time, magical beast bones and magical beast cores could also be considered as refining materials. That was why the Divine Inscription Palace had invited high-level inscriptionists from all over the world to discuss how to use the skin, bones, and tendons of magical beasts to refine artifacts. Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin were led by a tall woman to a hall on the 12th floor. This was a circular hall that was dozens of meters wide. The 4 walls were made of ancient bronze. Under the illumination of the bright, glowing stones, one could clearly see the spirit inscriptions on the walls. The middle of the hall was empty. The chairs were stuck to the wall in a circle. There were only 100 or so chairs in total. Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin were the first to arrive. They sat on the chairs and waited for the other inscription masters to arrive. "This place looks very solemn. It should be a place where important meetings are often held." Qin Yun observed carefully and said, "The soundproofing effect is very good. Furthermore, the walls can absorb energy. Even if we were to compete here, the entire Divine Inscription Palace would not notice." Lan Fengjin said, "Qin Yun, you are still a beginner-level inscription master, right? Bring the badge with you and enter the Divine Inscription Palace. It's best if you bring the badge with you." Qin Yun took out his badge and looked at Lan Fengjin's badge. It was gold in color. "I only have a bronze badge, so I won't hang it up." He felt that it was time to raise the level of his badge. The bronze badge was at the elementary level, the silver was at the intermediate level, and the gold was at the advanced level. Qin Yun felt that he was at the level of an intermediate-level inscription master. As for the advanced level, he was not sure. He needed to be able to refine high-grade spirit talismans, high-grade spirit arrays, and high-grade spirit artifacts. now that he was able to refine high-grade spirit talismans and high-grade spirit artifacts. He was only lacking high-grade spirit arrays that he had yet to test. Setting up a formation was rather difficult, especially a very high-level formation. If he wanted to complete it by himself, it would take a lot of time. People came one after another. Most of them were old men, and only a few were middle-aged. As for the only woman, Lan Fengjin was the only one. Among those who entered, there were only 30 or so people wearing high-level inscription master badges. There weren't many high-level inscriptionists. Other than the high-level inscriptionists, there were also some young people who were brought here by the high-level inscriptionists. Every high-level inscriptionist had 2 juniors with them. When these people entered and saw Lan Fengjin and Qin Yun, they were somewhat disapproving. However, some of the sharp-eyed people immediately saw the gold badge on Lan Fengjin's chest. That was the badge of a high-level inscription master, a young female inscription master and a high-level inscription master at that time. This was extremely rare. Only the high-level inscription masters were sitting. The other young people were standing on both sides of the elders' chairs. Even though there were many empty seats, they could not sit because those who could sit had a certain level of status and were all invited. "Brother, you don't seem to know the rules. This seat is not for you to sit in," an azure-clothed man said coldly when he saw the young man, Qin Yun, sitting calmly. Qin Yun glanced at the young man and said, "What right do you have to say that I can't sit down?" When the elder, the azure-clothed man, heard this, he became somewhat unhappy. He frowned and said coldly, "With just me, I've been here twice, and I'm a high-level inscription master. Only inscription masters can sit on the chairs here." Qin Yun hurriedly took out his bronze badge and said, "I'm also an inscription master. Now, all of you can shut up." Although the young inscription master was only at the beginner level, he was still very powerful. This caused a low and deep cry of surprise in the hall. "There seems to be only one young inscription master, Qin Yun. I wonder if this little friend is that Qin Yun?" A middle-aged man asked loudly. "That's me." Qin Yun cupped his hands at the middle-aged man. "Great Elder Zhuochuan invited me here." It really was Qin Yun. Everyone was astonished once again. That was because it was rumored that Qin Yun had mastered many high-grade spirit inscriptions. The young man and his elder who had criticized Qin Yun earlier had ugly expressions on their faces. Especially that young man. He felt very embarrassed to be laughed at by the other young people. He could not help but secretly feel jealous of Qin Yun. "Little brother, the female inscription master beside you is very unfamiliar. I, Li, have never heard of such a young, high-level female inscription master," the middle-aged man asked. The other old inscriptionists also nodded slightly. There were only 100 or so high-level inscriptionists here. If there was a new high-level inscription master, they would all know about it. Lan Fengjin was usually in the Saint Palace of Blue Spirit Star Palace. Furthermore, her inscription master examination was not conducted here, but in the martial desolate land. "I'm from Blue Spirit Star Palace. It's normal that you don't know about my examination in the martial desolate land." Lan Fengjin's tone was ice-cold as she swept a glance at the group of people. This was also to ensure her dignity. When they heard that they had come from the martial desolate land, all the high-level inscription masters here yearned for it. To them, the martial desolate land was the holy land of martial arts. Lan Fengjin had a cold expression on her face. Although these arrogant inscriptionists were unhappy, they did not say anything because they were the same. Qin Yun had seen that the high-level inscriptionists here were more or less very arrogant. He suddenly felt a little disappointed. This exchange was not as beautiful as he had imagined. A yellow-robed old man took out a large golden bone. It was the leg bone of a giant beast. He placed the golden bone on the ground and said with a complacent smile, "This is a spirit beast that I killed more than 10 days ago. I have to say, these spirit beasts are truly powerful. They are actually able to cultivate a very good Vajra bone. What's a piece of broken bone worth? The spirit beast I killed, that horn is truly powerful. Even if you use a royal-grade spirit artifact, you might not be able to destroy it." A long-bearded old man took out a 2-meter-long black beast horn that looked like a fork. The other high-level inscriptionists also displayed the bones, scales, horns, teeth of the spirit beast that they had hunted. This was simply showing off their strength. How is this an exchange? The azure-clothed man who had criticized Qin Yun earlier sneered at him and said, Qin Yun, as an inscription master, you should take out something as well. Qin Yun was very displeased as he said loudly, whether I take it out or not is none of your business. Why do you have so much to say? A junior like you who is standing to the side should just shut up and not talk so much. Chapter 234. Royal Grade. Seeing Qin Yun being ridiculed, Lan Fengjin said to the old man with sneer, Isn't this an alchemy exchange? This isn't a hunter's exchange. Since you think you're capable, you should talk about your alchemy experience. Don't show off your loot. There's nothing to brag about. No matter how good the materials are, if they can't be forged into good spirit artifacts, what's the use? Most of the people here were old men, and they were all proud and arrogant. Lan Fengjin's words made them feel uncomfortable in their hearts. However, because Lan Fengjin came from the martial desolate, they did not dare to say anything. Qin Yun sighed inwardly. It was good to have strength. Lan Fengjin was in the martial Dao realm, and she was also a high-ranked inscription master. This group of proud and arrogant old fellows didn't dare to say anything to her. The old man replied to Lan Fengjin and said, How could it be that easy to refine the bones of spirit beasts? Even refining the beast skins of spirit beasts was extremely difficult. Only a spirit-level inscription master could deal with the bones of spirit beasts easily. Right now, we can just use the hides of spirit beasts to make a defensive armor. To refine hard objects like bone and scales is a thankless task. Lan Fengjin sneered. If that's the case, then why did you take out these materials? You guys can't refine it. This caused those high-level inscription masters to blush, but they did not put it away. Originally, they planned to show off their spoils of war. Miss, we are only high-ranked inscriptionists. We are still unable to perfectly refine the bones of spirit beasts. This is also a matter of this competition. So what if we want to show off? You're better than some people who don't even have the chance to show off. Of course, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the arrogant brat beside you. Another old man snorted. Him sitting here means that this brat is on equal footing with us. We are high-ranked inscriptionists. We don't even have the mood to communicate anymore. Qin Yun, you're only a beginner inscription master. You should stand up. If you sit here, it will affect our mood, and we won't be able to carry on with this exchange. What's with the great elder? Why did he invite him over? Wasn't there a problem with his martial soul? He has only mastered a few high-grade runes. How can he be on equal footing with us? These high-level inscription masters are all making irresponsible remarks about Qin Yun. They did not dare to say anything about Lan Fengjin, so they could only vent their anger on Qin Yun. The young man mocked and ridiculed. Qin Yun, you should just stand up. You are about the same as us. We are all juniors. Furthermore, there is a problem with your martial spirit. It is impossible for you to refine normally. Lan Fengjin is somewhat angry. Of course, she could tell that these old fellows did not dare to target her, so they went to mock Qin Yun. Just as she was about to speak, Qin Yun stood up. After Qin Yun stood up, he smiled faintly. You really are an ignorant fellow. My martial spirit only had a problem before, but now it's fine. Also, I'm much stronger than you. I am now at the 8th level martial body realm, while you're only at the 6th level martial body realm. Furthermore, I can refine mid-grade spirit talismans and mid-grade spirit weapons. I can be considered an intermediate inscription master. What about you? Who do you think you are? These inscription masters spent all day in seclusion to study inscription. They did not know much about the outside world, so they naturally did not know about Qin Yun's matter. Qin Yun was only 16 years old, yet he was already at the 8th level martial body realm. This was indeed very shocking. Originally, the crowd did not believe it, but when they sensed the aura of the Vajram martial spirit that Qin Yun had released, they were alarmed. This was truly a 16-year-old 8th level martial body. This meant that to be able to step into the 9th level martial body realm under the age of 20, it was extremely likely that he would be able to step into the martial Tao realm around the age of 30. Of course, there's an alchemy exchange being held here. The main point is to exchange insights on refining materials. I say that other things are useless. Qin walked in front of the old man beside him. He said, "All of you say that these materials are difficult to refine or even impossible to refine. However, in my opinion, this is not a difficult matter. I can use these spirit beast bones to refine royal grade bone steel." Lan Fengjin frowned slightly. She felt that with Qin Yun's current level, it was impossible for him to do it. Even for her, it was extremely difficult. The others did not understand Qin Yun's true strength, so they believed that it was even more impossible for him to do it. Qin Yun, although you are a genius in the martial Tao, the material you are refining is the Tao of inscriptions. We are also masters of the Tao of inscriptions. Aren't you looking down on us by bragging in front of us? An old man sneered. You don't believe me? Then I'll refine it here for all of you to see. If I can really do it, give me all the materials on the ground. How about it? Qin Yun smiled. If I can't do it, I will share my high-grade fire spirit marks with everyone. High-grade fire spirit marks were also very precious. Other than Lan Fengjin and Qin Yun, none of the high-grade inscriptionists here had master high-grade spirit marks. Lan Fengjin did not stop him. She also wanted to see if Qin Yun could really do it and how he did it. All right, you'll do as you say. If you lie to us, even if the Great Elder comes, we will definitely not let you off. An old man said. The other high-grade inscriptionists also agreed. Furthermore, their hearts were blooming with joy. At this moment, Zhuchuan pushed open the door and entered. The moment he entered, he said with a smile, "It's very lively. What's the content of the exchange? Tell me about it." An old man hurriedly told Zhuchuan what had happened just now. When Zhuchuan heard this, he frowned and said, "Everyone, for my sake, forget about the bet just now. Qin Yun, don't be angry. If you lose, your losses will not be small." If he were to hand over his high-grade fire spirit marks to these high-grade inscriptionists, they would quickly sell them. Not long after, they would spread everywhere. Those high-grade inscriptionists could only nod in agreement with Zhuchuan, filled with regret. From their point of view, Qin Yun had only made such a bet because he was infuriated. Even Zhuchuan felt that Qin Yun was unable to refine the bones of spirit beasts into royal grade bone steel. Great Elder, I am a trustworthy person. I will do as I say. Qin Yun looked at the spirit beast bones on the ground and gulped secretly. If he could obtain them, it would be much easier to refine royal grade spirit artifacts in the future. Qin Yun, this is not a joke. Zhuchuan's expression turned serious. I know. Qin Yun was very confident in himself. Lan Fengjin said with a smile, Great Elder, let him be. It's normal for a child like him to be competitive. After all, he's young and impetuous. Who wasn't like this when they were young? Qin Yun glanced at her as if he was dissatisfied with the term child. Since you're determined to do this, then do as you please. Zhuchuan also sighed, I'll be the referee. I won't be biased towards anyone. It's fair and just. Qin Yun, you have to say a time, right? If you need more than 10 years to complete it, wouldn't we have to wait until then? An old man said, 20 hours. I don't want to waste any time. Qin Yun's words caused an uproar among the people present. Lan Fengjin was also alarmed. She could not figure out what method Qin Yun would use to refine royal grade bone steel in 20 hours. Since you want to refine royal grade bone steel, you also need royal grade spirit iron, right? I'll provide it. Zhuchuan took out a thumb-sized piece of iron and handed it over to the elders for inspection. After the inspection, the elders all nodded their heads. They confirmed that this was a royal grade spirit iron and not a royal grade bone steel. After Qin Yun received the piece of royal grade spirit iron, he was secretly alarmed. It was the size of thumb and actually weighed several hundred jin. Then let's begin, Zhuchuan said. Qin Yun chose a relatively short piece of golden spirit beast bone. It was the size of a palm and weighed about 10 jin. Great Elder, help me cut off a bit of this royal grade spirit iron. I only want 20 genes of it, Qin Yun said. Zhuochuan took out a very sharp knife and cut off a small piece of the royal-grade spirit iron. It was only the size of a grain of rice, but it weighed more than 20 genes. Everyone was amazed at Zhuochuan's knife. It was actually so sharp that it could easily cut through Wang Ping's spirit iron. Qin Yun took out his furnace and giant king spirit hammer and handed them over to the elders for inspection. His furnace was very weak, but the giant king spirit hammer shocked everyone. That was because there was a martial spirit inside, and it was a martial spirit that was very compatible with the giant king spirit hammer. After everyone carefully examined Qin Yun's giant king spirit hammer, their hearts were filled with surprise. This was because this hammer was forged by Qin Yun himself. Qin Yun, the martial spirit inside your hammer is very good. It's not difficult to raise this hammer to the Xian artifact level. The hardest part of refining a Xian artifact is to fuse a suitable martial spirit into a weapon. Many inscription masters are unable to do this. Zhuochuan returned the giant king spirit hammer to Qin Yun with a face full of surprise. Qin Yun had learned the art of soul refining from Qiao Ruiwen, so he had long been able to refine his martial spirit into his weapon. As for this strange art of soul refining, it was viewed as a demonic art. Lan Fengjin looked at Qin Yun very seriously because she wanted to see with her own eyes how Qin Yun had refined royal greybone steel. She was so familiar with Qin Yun and could tell that he was very confident. However, she still could not believe that he could refine bone steel. Qin Yun placed the spirit iron and beast bones into the furnace and began burning them. He has a purple gold fire martial spirit. Could it be that the flame is even more special? It can easily smelt royal-grade spirit iron and spirit beast bones? There aren't many people with a purple gold fire martial spirit, so we don't know the specifics. Maybe this flame really has a miraculous effect. If that's the case, then wouldn't we have been tricked by this kid? Those high-level inscriptionists were secretly worried. When they saw Qin Yun's giant king spirit hammer, they began to worry. It wasn't easy for them to obtain spirit beast bones. Qin Yun's purple gold fire was indeed very strong, but it wasn't his strongest flame. His strongest flame was the Nether Sun flame. This was a strange flame that could quickly decompose anything. The purple gold fire was only used by him as a cover. Chapter 235. Lost Spirit Formation. Qin Yun began smelting the materials. It looks like the furnace is burning with purple flames, but in fact, the inside of the furnace is burning with an incomparably black flame. It is the Nether Sun fire. Nether Sun fire is very magical. When burning things, it does not produce a very strong heat, but it has the ability to melt materials. Qin Yun released his inner force and activated the Nether Sun fire to burn the royal-grade spirit iron and spirit beast bones. More than 2 hours later, both the spirit iron and the animal bone showed signs of softening. It was also because of Qin Yun's cultivation. If he was at the martial Dao realm, the Nether Sun flames he released would definitely be able to burn royal-grade spirit iron and spirit beast bones in a liquid in a short period of time. Of course, he didn't need to burn it into a paste. As long as it was soft enough, it would be enough for him to forge the spirit iron and the beast bone into one. Under Zhuochuan's lead, everyone was discussing all kinds of alchemy insights, so no one felt bored. They were discussing while waiting for Qin Yun's results. While everyone was conversing, they would occasionally pay attention to Qin Yun. Now, Qin Yun had carried on for 10 hours without any movement. Everyone felt a lot more at ease. They only felt that Qin Yun had completely lost because half of the time had already passed. If he did not take it out to forge, there would definitely not be enough time. Even if it was top-grade bone steel, it would take at least 5 to 6 hours to forge. As for royal grey bone steel, it would take at least 14 to 16 hours. I thought he was very capable, but it turns out that he's just so. A young man mocked in a low voice. Isn't that so? Isn't it because he grasped high-grade spirit runes that he was able to gain the Great Elder's recognition? In the end, he's just a beginner inscription master. Even a high-level inscription master like my master can't do it, let alone him. Now he's completely lost. It's a good thing that he lost. Our masters will be able to obtain high-grade fire spirit runes. Just as everyone was mocking Qin Yun suddenly opened the lid of the furnace and took out the golden beast bones and spirit iron that had melted into a ball of soft mud. He placed them on the table provided by Zhuo Chuan and began forging. Qin Yun held the giant king spirit hammer in his left hand. Through the arm of the heavenly lion, he executed the six-style forging dragon and hammered the golden object crazily. Everyone who was discussing alchemy was dumbfounded. Boom, boom, boom. Every strike of Qin Yun's hammer was incomparably violent and shocking. The high-grade alchemy inscriptions of the giant king spirit hammer produced an alchemy power that smashed onto the beast bones and spirit iron, producing waves of golden flashes. Qin Yun executed the flaming light fist and flipped the ball of golden burning material with his bare hands. After flipping it, he smashed down with the six-style forging dragon. He continued to fold the material and hammered the six-style forging dragon dozens of times until the spirit iron and the beast bone were perfectly fused together. And it had only been 14 hours. His forging process only took 4 hours. The royal gray bone steel was actually blue, like a blue crystal. It was extremely beautiful. The royal gray bone steel that Qin Yun forged was in the shape of a strip and was only the size of a pinky finger. However, he had indeed forged royal gray bone steel. Although those high-level inscriptionists could not forge royal gray bone steel, they had all seen it before. Just from its appearance, they could tell that it was a very high-quality royal gray bone steel. Everyone was dumbfounded as they looked at the blue royal gray bone steel in Qin Yun's hand. Even Lan Fengjin found it hard to believe. Zhuo Chuan took a light breath and took the royal gray bone steel from Qin Yun. He broke the silence and said, "This is indeed royal gray bone steel. It looks very transparent without any impurities. This is a very high-quality royal gray bone steel. That's impossible. How could he forge it so quickly? He's only at the 8th level martial body realm. He's only 16 years old. Exactly. Great Elder, we don't believe this is true. You have to be more accurate. A little brat who hasn't even grown his hair yet. I don't believe that he can refine royal gray bone steel. He must have cheated." Zhuo Chuan walked toward an old man and handed the royal gray bone steel to him. When the old man received the royal gray bone steel, he immediately shouted, "So hot! The remaining internal heat has yet to disappear." Another old man also took it and shouted. This was because the internal heat of the royal gray bone steel was scorching hot. These old fellows were not afraid of heat, but now they couldn't take it anymore. They had no choice but to reduce the royal gray bone steel and return it to Zhuo Chuan. If you still don't believe me, there's another way to test the bone steel. That's the hardness test. Zhuo Chuan took out 2 blue pressure plates and said, "Everyone should know about this. If you place something in the middle of the pressure plate and constantly increase the pressure, you can test the hardness of the item being pressed." Zhuo Chuan placed the royal gray bone steel that Qin Yun had refined in the middle of the 2 pressure plates and constantly increased the pressure. On the pressure plate, a number immediately appeared. 1, 2, 3, 11. The hardness of the royal gray bone steel was only 10. For Qin Yun to be able to refine it to reach 11 meant that the quality was very good. Lan Fengjin said with a smile, "Everyone, did you see that? Qin Yun is a master of alchemy. We are far inferior to him." But just now, someone actually looked down on him and said that he was not worthy to sit here. From the looks of it, you are not worthy of being on equal footing with him. At the very least, you are unable to refine royal gray bone steel. Qin Yun's face was full of smiles as he walked through the circular hall and took away the beast bones that were placed on the ground. When the high-ranked inscriptionists saw their materials taken away by a little kid, they were so angry that their hearts bled. Even now, they could not accept the fact that a 16-year-old kid like Qin Yun could refine royal gray bone steel. Zhuo Chuan's face was also filled with shock. Looking at the smiling Qin Yun, he felt that this youth was extremely terrifying. There was a terrifying potential hidden within his body. At this moment, even the arrogant high-ranked inscriptionists had lost their temper with Qin Yun. Qin Yun's cultivation was low, but to be able to refine royal grade bone steel early on with the purple gold fire was his strength. These high-ranked inscriptionists were not stupid. Therefore, they knew that Qin Yun would definitely be an accomplished inscriptionist in the future. At this moment, they were extremely vexed for offending Qin Yun earlier. Normally, they were proud and arrogant, but they were unwilling to lower their heads and apologize. Great Elder, thank you very much for your invitation. It allowed me to earn so much. I'm very tired now. Can you arrange a place for me to rest? Qin Yun chuckled. Of course. Zhuo Chuan hurriedly nodded before getting someone to bring Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin away. Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin were brought to a suite on the 20th floor. From the window, one could see the golden sea of clouds outside. Brat, how did you do it? They don't know how powerful the purple fire is, but I know that it's definitely not that strong. Lan Fengjin came to Qin Yun's side and poked in the waist. Qin Yun said with a mysterious smile, "This is my secret. Even if I say it out loud, you won't be able to do it. It's useless even if you know." When Lan Fengjin heard that, her heart itched with curiosity. She knew that Qin Yun was unwilling to say anything. She could only stomp her feet in anger and snort lightly. Sister Lan, I'm very tired. I'll go rest first. Qin Yun entered the room with a grin and threw himself onto the soft bed. He immediately fell asleep. Lan Fengjin came to the window in the hall and looked at the golden sea of clouds outside. She felt that Qin Yun was extremely mysterious. What secret is this brat Qin Yun hiding? He has fallen into desperate situations several times, but he has been able to successfully escape them. Furthermore, his strength has increased. Forget it, I'll go rest as well. Lan Fengjin also had her own secrets. Qin Yun was also curious about her secrets, but he did not ask. Therefore, Lan Fengjin would not force Qin Yun to answer. Qin Yun rested for a day. When he came out of his room, he saw Lan Fengjin in a light blue dress drinking tea with Zhuo Chuan in the hall. Qin Yun, wake up. Your performance yesterday was too shocking. Even I felt that you were cheating. Zhuo Chuan chuckled and said, however, you did not cheat because we all saw the process of your refining with our own eyes. Qin Yun sat on a chair opposite Zhuo Chuan and said with a smile, Great Elder, do you have good news to tell me? Yesterday, he had entrusted Zhuo Chuan to help him find a way to buy pills. Yes, I have good news. I heard that someone wants to sell the energy strengthening spirit pill. Zhuo Chuan nodded. This is the highest grade royal grade spirit pill. Lan Fengjin exclaimed. This can condense inner yuan into a vajra inner core. No matter what, we have to get this pill. The pill seller has a good relationship with me. He needs 1 billion crystal coins to buy it. I wonder if you can take out that many crystal coins? Zhuo Chuan asked Qin Yun. How many crystal coins can my 40 Class 9 magic cores sell for? Qin Yun asked. About 400 million. Zhuo Chuan said. I still have 300 million crystal coins on me. In addition to the 400 million from selling the Class 9 magic cores, that's 700 million. I'm still short of 300 million. Qin Yun looked at Lan Fengjin. I'll lend it to you. Lan Fengjin took out 30 Class 9 magic cores and handed them to Zhuo Chuan. Even if she didn't lend it to him, Zhuo Chuan would lend it to Qin Yun. I need to go for a few days before I come back. This friend of mine lives quite far away. Zhuo Chuan said, You guys wait here patiently. After Zhuo Chuan left, Lan Fengjin patted Qin Yun on the shoulder and said with a smile, Qin Yun, how are you going to thank me? How about I give you my first kiss? Qin Yun said with a smile. Scram. Lan Fengjin scolded with a smile. Qin Yun suddenly recalled a very important matter and said seriously, Sister Lan, didn't I say that I wanted to refine a bee skin array? Let's begin now. All right. Lan Fengjin was also somewhat impatient. She wanted to see what powerful item Qin Yun was going to refine. Qin Yun had a lot of Class 9 magical beast hides. He also had spirit beast hides. He and Lan Fengjin entered a very spacious stone room and took out all the beast hides. Lan Fengjin asked, Can you tell me what kind of formation you want to forge? This way, I can give you some advice. 9 Yang Spirit Convergence Array. Qin Yun said softly. What? You know the 9 yang spirit convergence array? Lan Fengjin was shocked as she exclaimed. Is that scary? Qingyun thought that Lan Fengjin knew about it as well. Lan Fengjin tied up her loose black hair and said, You don't know, the 9 yang spirit convergence array has been lost. Originally, it was a very famous formation in our blue spirit star palace. Later on, because of the inscription gate, it was lost. However, in some of the martial academies here, there are still ancient 9 yang spirit convergence arrays. Because Qingyun had 36 spirit marks, he was able to comprehend the dark lines within the 9 yang spirit convergence array through the bright lines and grasp it. How did you get it? Lan Fengjin asked curiously. Even our blue spirit star palace doesn't have it, yet you can master it. My grand preceptor left it for me, Qingyun said. That female grand preceptor? Lan Fengjin was even more surprised. Chapter 236. Energy Consolidating Spirit Pill. Lan Fengjin pinched Qingyun's face and said with a smile, You little brat, aren't you afraid that I'll be angry when you say that other women are prettier than me in front of me? Qingyun took out the furnace and stuffed the bee skins inside. He said, Sister Lan, you can be ranked in the top 5 of all the women I've ever seen. Lan Fengjin also helped him stuff the bee skins into the furnace and asked, Who's number 1? Is it your grand preceptor sister, your teacher Yang, or your lovely wife, Xiao Yuelon? In my heart, they are tied for first place, Qingyun said with a smile. When Lan Fengjin heard that, she could not help but hit him. So I'm ranked so low in your heart. How heartless. Qingyun felt somewhat wronged as he said, Sister Lan, in my heart, you are also tied for first place. Damn brat, that's more like it. Lan Fengjin smiled in satisfaction. Her smile was extremely charming. Qingyun glanced at the valiant demoness and did not dare to look again. He was worried that he would be distracted because of this. How do you want me to help you? It seems like you can do it by yourself. Lan Fengjin also became serious. The process of refining a great formation was rather difficult and required great seriousness. If anything went wrong, it would be for naught. Help me deal with the bee skins, Qingyun said. You are in the martial Dao realm. If you use your power to nurture the bee skins, the overall quality will be much higher. Lan Fengjin said, This is very hard work. If it was anyone else who asked me to do this, I wouldn't even bother with them. But it's you. I definitely won't refuse. Qingyun said with a smile, Sister Lan, if you need my help in the future, I won't refuse you. Lan Fengjin smiled before helping Qingyun tidy up the magical bee skins. Qingyun carefully took out the bee skins that were almost completely refined from the furnace. The bee skins had already been burned into a ball of soft red mud that looked like liquid. Following that, he placed the red-hot beast bones into the bee skins and began forging. During the forging process, Lan Fengjin used the furnace to burn the other bee skins and bones. As long as she was done, she would take them out and hand them over to Qingyun to forge. They all used the bee skins of spirit beasts and class 9 magical beasts. By fusing them together and forging them, they could produce a very flexible and tough bee skin that could also store energy inside. After 2 days of hard work, Qingyun obtained a 2-meter wide square bee skin. It's a relatively small formation. It's enough for you to use by yourself. Lan Fengjin wiped her sweat and said with a smile, I really want to see you carve the 9 yang spirit convergence array. Qingyun said, Sister Lan, you don't need to retreat. When I carve, I won't cover up the dark lines. In the past 2 days, Lan Fengjin had put in a lot of effort. When Qingyun was forging the bee skin, she had released her martial Dao realm energy to nurture the bee's skin. In other words, you want to teach me the 9 yang spirit convergence array? Lan Fengjin asked in surprise. It's not teaching either. I want to make an exchange with you. Qingyun chuckled. Sister Lan, you must have grasped quite a few good spear inscriptions as well. How about we each take what we need? Lan Fengjin thought about it and said, All right, if you teach me the 9 yang spirit convergence array, I'll teach you a set of top-grade spear inscriptions. Is that okay? Top-grade spirit inscriptions were also very rare. The 36 spirit inscriptions that Qin Yun had were only high-grade spirit inscriptions. What's the use of this top-grade spirit inscription? Qin Yun had to ask clearly. If it was not very useful, then he would be at a disadvantage. If he had a spirit inscription with the same effect, then there was no need for it. The star-guiding spirit inscription is said to be used to create talismans. It can attract meteors. Some small meteors have a large amount of rare and precious refining materials, so they're quite useful. Of course, I haven't tried it yet because I still don't have the ability to create top-grade spirit talismans. Lan Fengjin said. Qin Yun was secretly moved when he heard that. This was because he recalled how he and Yang Shi had seen many meteors fall from the Blue Spirit Star Palace. At that time, they had obtained the Void Spirit Stone that could be used to refine storage spirit artifacts and the Flying Spirit Stone that could be used to upgrade their martial spirits. Sister Lan, have you ever seen anyone successfully attract a meteor? Qin Yun asked. Lan Fengjin nodded and said, I have, but I have to tell you first, not all meteors that fall have things inside. Most of the meteors that fall are ordinary stones. This requires a certain amount of luck. All right, let's make a deal. Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin clapped their hands together and said with a smile. Following that, Qin Yun began inscribing the runes of the 9 Yang Spirit Convergence Array. Lan Fengjin watched from the side and memorized it. When inscribing the runes, Qin Yun proceeded very slowly. This was more stable, and there would be no mistakes. When Lan Fengjin saw the process of inscribing the spirit inscriptions with her own eyes, she had a deep impression of it. When she saw Qin Yun carve such a complicated array pattern by himself, she was deeply shocked. That was because even she might not be able to do it so smoothly. She had many questions she wanted to ask, but she could not ask them now, because Qin Yun was seriously inscribing. Previously, when Qin Yun was inscribing the 9 Yang Spirit Convergence Array, he had done it in the Heaven Punisher Tower. At that time, the conditions were not good, and his mental strength was not that strong. Now, the conditions in all aspects were very good, and his mental strength had become stronger. It went very smoothly. After about 4 days, Qin Yun completed the inscription of a complete set of 9 Yang Spirit Convergence Array. He heaved a long sigh. Did you carve it before? Lan Fengjin had also memorized the array patterns. She was already very familiar with the bright lines, but she did not know about the dark lines. Now that she had the dark lines, she could also set up the 9 Yang Spirit Convergence Array. Qin Yun was also very tired. He sat on a chair and closed his eyes. He did not answer Lan Fengjin's question. Instead, he was resting. Lan Fengjin walked over and wiped the sweat off his face. Then, she channeled her inner force into Qin Yun's body to help him reduce his fatigue. With Lan Fengjin's infusion of inner force, Qin Yun was no longer as tired as before. He was much more energetic. I've carved it before. I secretly learned this formation from the ice pagoda at the top of the Hualing Martial School's Hualing Peak. Qin Yun chuckled and said, Sister Lan, you have to keep it a secret. You can't pass it on to anyone else. Got it. I definitely won't give such a good thing to anyone else. Lan Fengjin said with a smile. Then, she took out a piece of bee skin and handed it to Qin Yun. Qin Yun took it and took a look. He secretly took a deep breath. There was a set of extremely profound and complicated spirit marks carved on the bee's skin. This was the star-guiding spirit mark, and it looked much more complicated than the 9 Yang Spirit Convergence Array. Amazing, Qin Yun exclaimed. You are not allowed to spread the star-guiding spirit mark. If Blue Spirit Star Palace finds out, I can only flee for my life. Lan Fengjin also instructed. Don't worry. Qin Yun put away the beast's skin. The 9 Yang Spirit Convergence Array he had created was still on the ground. He walked over and sat on the soft brown bee skin. He took out a handful of crystal coins and sprinkled them on the area above the bee's skin, allowing the runes to absorb them. As long as the 9 Yang Spirit Convergence Array was activated and absorbed the spiritual energy, it would be able to use a portion of the spiritual energy to operate the array. The other portion of the spiritual energy would be absorbed by the person sitting in the array. Sister Lan, What level is this 9-yang spirit convergence array at? Qin Yun asked curiously. He wanted to know what level of array he could refine. It can be considered a small, high-grade spirit formation. Lan Fengjin said, usually this kind of formation is set up by one person, so it could be considered very rare. In that case, I could be considered a high-ranked inscription master, right? Qin Yun laughed. He directly skipped over the intermediate inscription master. Lan Fengjin was stunned. She found it hard to believe, but she had to admit that Qin Yun was a high-ranked inscription master. He was only 16 years old. I have to find Zhuo Chuan for the assessment. The treatment of a high-ranked inscription master will be higher. Qin Yun said with a smile. Zhuo Chuan hadn't come yet. He had gone to help Qin Yun get the energy-consolidating spirit pill. It would take him a few days to return. In the next few days, Qin Yun guided Lan Fengjin step by step to inscribe the 9-yang spirit convergence array's spirit marks so that she could familiarize herself with it. The moment Zhuo Chuan returned, he immediately went to Qin Yun's suite. I've kept you waiting, Zhuo Chuan said with a smile. The transaction went very smoothly. This is your energy-consolidating spirit pill. Your luck is not bad, and it just so happens that I know that if you were a few days late, you might not have it anymore. You would need to wait a year or two. Qin Yun took a jade box and opened it. There was a golden pill inside. It was the energy-consolidating spirit pill. Hurry up and eat it. Let's see if it's of any help. Zhuo Chuan was also somewhat excited. If Qin Yun succeeded, he would be at the 9th level martial body realm at the age of 16. Xiao Yuelan had terrifying talent. She was at the 9th level martial body realm at the age of 17. If Qin Yun ate the energy-consolidating spirit pill and broke through, he would be even more terrifying than Xiao Yuelan. Qin Yun took the energy-consolidating spirit pill and rushed into the secret chamber. After consuming the pill, he entered a state of refinement. It would take a period of time before he could finish refining it. Zhuo Chuan also left the suite to busy himself with his matters. As for Lan Fengjin, she was in her room practicing the spirit marks of the 9-yang spirit convergence array. 8 days later, Qin Yun woke up in the secret chamber. When he opened his eyes were pitch black without any whites. It was extremely frightening. Gradually, the whites of his eyes appeared and a black mist seeped out of his body. The energy-consolidating spirit pill is really useful. It can allow me to condense the Nether Sun inner yuan into a Vajra inner core. Qin Yun looked at his dantian and at the black bead. That was the Vajra inner core. Transforming inner yuan into a Vajra inner core would make inner strength stronger. It would also not be as weak as inner yuan and would be safer. Furthermore, it could produce a little bit of internal supreme force on its own. If the supreme force was fused into the inner strength, it would be able to unleash an even more terrifying power. The most obvious thing about the 9th level martial body was that the internal supreme force could overflow out of the body. Qin Yun's Nether Sun inner core was very special. It could restrain its aura, so it would not leak out a single trace of internal supreme force. However, he felt that he could not be considered to be at the 9th level martial body realm because he still had 2 more elemental energies to turn into inner cores. Usually, he would only use the Heavenly Lion's Arm's Thunder, Fire Martial Spirit's elemental energy. With this elemental energy, it would not leak out any astral energy, and no one would know that he was a martial artist at the 9th level martial body realm. Chapter 237. Nether Sun Golden Lan Fengjin was waiting for Qin Yun outside. When she saw him come out, she hurriedly walked forward and asked, "How is it? Did you succeed in transforming your inner yuan into a Dan?" Qin Yun shook his head. "Maybe there was a problem with my martial soul before, so I almost succeeded. Sigh, don't be discouraged. The energy-strengthening spirit pill is still very useful. Right now, you're only a little short of the 9th level martial body realm. This is already considered very fast." Lan Fengjin patted Qin Yun on the back. "Sister Lan, I'm going to participate in the high-level inscription master exam. provide me with a relatively simple high-grade spirit array and talisman so that I can practice. This way, I'll be able to pass more safely. All right, Lan Fengjin smiled and began teaching Qin Yun how to create simple talismans and spirit arrays. After grasping it, Qin Yun went to find Zhuo Chuan. Zhuo Chuan was in his study. When he learned that Qin Yun had come to look for him, he hurriedly came to the hall. When he saw Qin Yun, he immediately asked, "You're at the 9th level martial body realm?" Qin Yun said with a smile, "Soon. Maybe it's because my martial spirit had a problem before, so I haven't broken through yet." Zhuo Chuan nodded his head. "That's good. I'm worried that the energy consolidating spirit pill is ineffective." Qin Yun said, "It's effective. The effect is very good." "That's right, Great Elder. I'm here to take the high-level inscription master assessment. When will it begin? Are you going to take the test now?" Zhuo Chuan was given a fright. However, when he thought about how Qin Yun could refine royal grey bone steel, he felt that it was nothing. Qin Yun said with a chuckle, "Yes, if at a high-ranked inscription master, what kind of treatment would they receive in the Divine Inscription Palace? The treatment will definitely be much better. As long as you have time, I guarantee that you'll be able to earn a lot of crystal coins here. It's much safer than going out to kill magical beasts." Zhuo Chuan said, "Also, you can entrust us to help you find the pills and materials you need. If you don't have enough crystal coins, we can help you pay for them." "Great Elder, I want a few more fortifying spirit pills. Can you help me get them?" Qin Yun asked. He still had 2 inner elemental energies to transform into Vajra inner cores. If he ate the origin strengthening spirit pill, he would be able to do so very quickly. Zhuo Chuan frowned and said, "It's possible, but it'll take a year or 2 before we can get it. After all, this is a king-grade spirit pill. It's not that easy to refine." If not for Zhuo Chuan, no matter how many crystal coins Qin Yun had, he might not have been able to obtain the spirit consolidating pill. If you are ready, you can begin the high-level inscription assessment now. Originally, if you were an intermediate inscription master, you would only be able to take the high-level exam. However, your situation is rather special, and you can refine royal grey bone steel. So I made an exception for you and directly took the high-level exam." Zhuo Chuan said. Qin Yun said with a smile, "Then many thanks, Great Elder. I have finished my preparations. I can start the assessment at any time." Zhuo Chuan brought Qin Yun to the examination room. There were many forging hammers and furnaces here. He could use the equipment provided by the Divine Inscription Palace or his own. Qin Yun only used his own giant king spirit hammer. Everything else was from the Divine Inscription Palace. To pass the examination of a high-ranked inscription master, one must be able to refine high-grade spirit talismans, high-grade spirit artifacts, and high-grade spirit arrays. Zhuo Chuan said, "Sister Lan has already told me." Qin Yun nodded. Zhuo Chuan smiled and said, "All right, you can start crafting talismans now. Do you want me to provide you with talisman paper?" Qin Yun shook his head and took out a piece of talisman paper. This talisman paper was not an ordinary talisman paper. It had been soaked in beast blood and then specially refined. Because it was an examination, as long as he reached the standard, it would be fine. Therefore, Qin Yun could only use talisman paper to craft talismans. It was relatively simple and did not take up much time. Qin Yun was refining a fire talisman, but he did not use his own high-grade spirit marks. Instead, he used ordinary fire spirit marks to inscribe them. These spirit marks were all taught to him by Lan Fengjin. When Zhuo Chuan saw this, he said with a smile, "Aren't you afraid that your fire talisman won't meet the standard by using these ordinary spirit marks?" "Standard? Wouldn't it be fine if I just create a high-grade fire spirit talisman?" Qin Yun asked in puzzlement. "That's not it. Even if you inscribe a few sets of spirit marks and create a high-grade spirit talisman, if you don't have enough power, you won't be able to pass." Zhuo Chuan smiled and said, "Do you want to use other spirit marks now?" "There's no need. I feel that if I use ordinary spirit marks to create talismans, I can also create a very strong talisman." Qin Yun was very confident in himself. This way, he could see his true level. The talismans he created all looked very powerful because he used high-grade spirit marks. If it was made with ordinary spirit marks, its power would be very impressive. It would be able to tell the level of an inscription master. Zhuochuan nodded. He was also looking forward to how powerful Qin Yun would be if he used ordinary spirit marks to craft talismans. When many inscriptionists spoke of Qin Yun, they were still very unconvinced. This was because they believed that Qin Yun had grasped high-grade spirit marks, which was why he was able to refine powerful spirit marks and spirit artifacts. In the high-level inscription master's assessment, the talismans created had to have a certain amount of attack power. Only then would one be able to directly test the power of the talisman. Qin Yun often inscribed complex, high-grade spirit inscriptions. Now, when he was inscribing ordinary spirit inscriptions, it was very easy for him. He smoothly inscribed them on the talisman paper, and it only took him more than 2 hours to complete. "I'm done." Qin Yun looked at the talisman he had created and nodded in satisfaction. "Great Elder, how do I test it?" "It's very simple. Throw this talisman into a special furnace of mine and cover it. If your fire talisman is powerful enough, you can push open the lid of the furnace," Zhuochuan said as he took Qin Yun's high-grade fire spirit talisman. He threw the fire talisman into his furnace and quickly covered it with a lid. Bang! A muffled sound came from within the furnace, causing the entire furnace to tremble. The lid was even sent flying by a very strong force. Clang! The lid of the furnace fell to the ground, making a loud sound. Zhuochuan was stunned. He had presided over many high-level exams. Many of the high-grade spirit talismans refined by old inscriptionists could at most lift the lid of the furnace a little. As for the high-grade spirit talisman that Qin Yun had refined, it had actually blown the lid away. What surprised him the most was that the high-grade spirit talisman that Qin Yun had created was made using ordinary spirit talismans. "Great Elder, isn't the lid of your furnace too easy to open? Or did you not cover it properly just now?" When Qin Yun saw Zhuochuan's shocked expression, he asked, "Why don't I make another fire spirit talisman and test its power again?" Zhuochuan sighed in surprise and said, "No need. The fire talisman you refined is very powerful. I can feel it. I really don't know how you refined it." "Really?" Qin Yun said with a pleasantly surprised smile. "That means I've passed the first round of the examination, right?" Zhuochuan nodded. The reason why Qin Yun could create such a strong fire talisman with ordinary spirit inscriptions was because his blood soul power was very strong. One had to know that his inner force was not simple. It was formed by absorbing the 9 suns' spiritual energy through the 9 yang divine spirit. Even if he used thunder and fire inner force, it would still be extremely terrifying. Furthermore, he had used mental force to refine it. It was a fusion of primordial spirit and mental force. It was much stronger than ordinary mental force. The power of the blood soul was a fusion of mental force, inner force, and blood energy. Whether it was his mental force, inner force, or blood energy, they were all extremely strong. Therefore, the power of the blood soul that he gathered could allow the spirit inscriptions he carved to contain even stronger energy. Rest for a while, and then begin refining a high-grade spirit artifact, Zhuochuan said with a smile. He was looking forward to the high-grade spirit artifact that Qin Yun had forged. A spirit artifact forged by an inscription master could also tell the level of an inscription master. "I don't need to rest," Qin Yun said with a smile. "Let's begin now." Zhuochuan did not say anything else and said, "All right, you can slowly refine it. There's no time limit." Qin Yun was in a hurry to return to the Star Xianwu Academy, so he could not slowly refine it. "Great Elder, I will still use ordinary spirit inscriptions to refine a high-grade spirit artifact. Don't need to undergo a test?" Qin Yun asked. "There's no need for a high-grade spirit artifact, because whether or not you can unleash the power of a spirit artifact depends on the person." Zhuochuan shook his head and said with a smile, "You can begin now." Since there were no other restrictions, Qin Yun felt a lot more at ease. When he was forging the giant King Spirit Hammer, he had accumulated a lot of experience. The spirit inscriptions he had inscribed were all high-grade spirit inscriptions, and the difficulty of refining them was also very high. He had even used top-grade bone steel to refine them. Right now, the high-grade spirit artifacts he was refining were only refined with high-grade bone steel. It would be much easier for him to inscribe spirit inscriptions. Let's forge a saber. This is what I'm best at. Qin Yun only carved ordinary solid inscriptions, energy-storing inscriptions, and berserk inscriptions. As long as 5 sets of spirit inscriptions were carved on a spirit artifact and the materials used were high-grade spirit inscriptions, the weapon refined would be a high-grade spirit artifact. As for whether it was good or bad, it depended on the spirit inscriptions carved by the inscription master and the forging of the materials. Therefore, the spirit artifacts refined by famous inscriptionists were often very expensive. This was because the spirit artifacts refined by famous masters could guarantee their quality. There were some inscriptionists who had just advanced from intermediate to high-level inscriptionists. The high-grade spirit artifacts refined by them were extremely unstable. Some of them were of poor quality, while others were not bad. However, compared to famous masters, they were still much worse. The saber that Qin Yun was currently forging was extremely attentive, especially when forging the materials. He was completely focused on forging the high-grade bone steel. Even Zhuchuan could not help but praise him repeatedly in his heart. He was able to refine royal grade bone steel, so the high-grade bone steel he forged was of the best quality. Zhuchuan was even more curious about Qin Yun's flames. He was also someone who had seen the world, so he naturally knew that the purple gold fire was powerful. However, it was not to such an extent that it could allow someone to quickly forge a high-grade spirit artifact's rough embryo. It had only taken 6 hours. Of course, Zhuchuan was only puzzled in his heart. He also understood that Qin Yun must be hiding some secret that no one could know about. When Qin Yun was smelting the materials, he used the nether sun fire. One had to know that he had cultivated the nether sun inner core, and his flames were even more powerful. Coupled with his giant king spirit hammer, it would not take long for him to forge a good rough embryo. After he finished forging the rough embryo, he began to carefully grind it. Chapter 238. High-level inscription, master inscribing spirit inscriptions, was a very easy task for Qin Yun. Especially when he was only inscribing ordinary spirit inscriptions, the process was even easier and smoother. Zhuchuan watched from the side and felt very upset. He felt that Qin Yun's attainments in the Tao of inscriptions would surpass his in a few years. Kid, you're really a monster. You actually finished refining a high-grade spirit artifact so quickly. Many high-level inscriptionists would need at least a few days or more than 10 days to complete it. If you want to refine something even more exquisite, it will take even longer. Zhuchuan looked at Qin Yun and sighed. The moment Qin Yun held the carving knife, he began to smoothly inscribe spirit inscriptions. He naturally and smoothly drew on the hard blade, as if he was drawing on paper with a pen. It looked extremely easy. The main reason was that his blood soul power contained the power of the nether sun fire. Therefore, when he touched the blade, he could easily inscribe spirit inscriptions. There was no need for him to use the tip of the carving knife. This was also the reason why he was able to use a mid-grade carving knife to carve high-grade bone steel. Zhuchuan was also very surprised by this. Although he did not say it, he knew that Qin Yun's blood soul power was extremely terrifying. Otherwise, he would not be able to use a mid-grade carving knife to carve on high-grade bone steel. Qin Yun, you'd better change to a good carving knife. That way, others won't suspect so much. Zhuchuan reminded Qin Yun and said seriously, I'll find time to forge one for myself. Qin Yun nodded. As he trusted Zhuchuan, he was not afraid that Zhuchuan would be able to see through the strangeness of the blood soul power. Forging a carving knife requires a blueprint. Do you have a blueprint? Zhuchuan asked. Not yet. Qin Yun also understood the refining process of a carving knife. He needed to strictly follow the blueprints in order to refine a good carving knife. Zhuchuan said, I have a high-grade carving knife blueprint here. Do you want it? I don't need it for now. When I need it, I'll come here to find you, Qin Yun said with a smile. A few hours passed, and Qin Yun finished inscribing the spirit inscriptions. A high-grade spirit-level saber was completed in a few hours. Zhuo Chuan took it and looked at it. He exclaimed, "The quality is very good. To be able to refine this quality in such a short time, it's really not easy." Qin Yin smiled. "Then, how many crystal coins can this saber sell for?" "About 20 to 30 million crystal coins." It was very good in all aspects, but because it was an ordinary spirit rune, there wasn't anything outstanding about it. Hence, the price was like this. As for the other low-quality, high-grade spirit weapons, they're only worth around 10 million crystal coins. Zhuo Chuan said. Qin Yin successfully passed the second round of assessment. The final round was to create a high-grade spirit array. This was very easy for him. What he made was a qi drawing array, made from the skin of a 9th rank magical beast. It was circular and 2 meters wide. The qi drawing array was mainly used to draw in energy from the surroundings. For example, if there was dense spiritual qi nearby, or qi released by other types of energy, it could be drawn over through the qi drawing array. There were also low-grade and middle-grade qi gathering arrays, but they were much worse than high-grade qi gathering arrays. The high-grade qi drawing array was a rather commonly used high-grade spirit array. Its strongest point was that it could draw in spirit qi and condense a very small spirit bead in the center of the array. Zhuo Chuan could tell at a glance that Qin Yin was going to create a qi drawing array. He nodded to himself. During the assessment, it was easier to evaluate the quality of such a commonly used formation. Qin Yin could even create a complicated formation like the 9-yang spirit convergence array. Therefore, it only took him a few hours to create a relatively simple qi drawing array. All right, you passed all of them. You're now a high-ranked inscription master. Zhuo Chuan could not help but sigh. Although he had personally witnessed the birth of a 16-year-old high-ranked inscription master, he still found it hard to believe that it was true. Zhuo Chuan finished making a high-ranked inscription master badge and gave it to Qin Yin. He said with a smile, "Even in the martial, desolate land, it's not easy to find such a young, high-ranked inscription master. Your talent in the use of inscriptions is simply too astonishing. The deeper one's understanding of the inscriptions, the more perfect and natural they would be to be able to fuse multiple sets of inscriptions into one and not interfere with each other." This was the importance of talent. Many inscription masters were unable to advance to the next level because they were unable to deal with the compatibility of many sets of spirit inscriptions, resulting in a lot of interference. The spirit inscriptions were unable to absorb energy and could not undergo the unique experience of activating the spirit inscriptions. Qin Yin received the dazzling golden badge with a smile on his face. "I'm also a high-ranked inscription master now. I really didn't expect it." Zhuo Chuan also laughed heartily and asked, "Qin Yin, can you sell me the saber and spirit array you forged? I'll buy it for 50 million. I'll give it to you, no crystal coins." Qin Yin felt that Zhuo Chuan was a good person. He would definitely be able to help him a lot in the future. Zhuo Chuan said, "You must have spent all your crystal coins buying the energy consolidating spirit pills. Don't be polite with me. Take out your crystal card." Qin Yin thought about it and agreed. He did not have a single crystal coin left on his crystal card. Furthermore, he still owed Lan Fengjin 300 million. "Then I won't stand on ceremony." Qin Yin took out his crystal card and handed it to Zhuo Chuan. He asked, "Great Elder, what do you want me to do with these things?" Zhuo Chuan said with a smile, "Keep it as a souvenir. Maybe in the future, you will become an extraordinary inscription master. If I buy your saber and spirit array, it will be of great value." Qin Yin took the crystal card and stuck out his tongue. He said with a smile, "I wonder when that will happen. Great Elder, I'm going back. I'm now a student of the Heaven's Pride Academy. It's not good to bring my instructor around. I have to rush back. Then I won't send you off. Be careful on the road." Zhuo Chuan nodded and said with a smile. When Qin Yin returned to his suite, he saw Lan Fengjin practicing very seriously. She was carving the 9-yang spirit convergence array's spirit inscriptions. "Sister Lan, what do you think this is?" Qin Yin took out a golden round badge and said with a chuckle, "Truly amazing. You're even younger than me, and you're a high-ranked inscription master. You're not often seen in the martial desolate land. Lan Fengjin sighed. Qin Yun felt that Lan Fengjin's identity was not simple. With such high talent, she was definitely not an ordinary person. Let's go back. Qin Yun was very satisfied with his trip to the Divine Inscription Palace. He had gained a lot as well. I'll go back after I finish inscribing this set of spirit inscriptions, Lan Fengjin said. Qin Yun walked over and watched her inscribe spirit inscriptions. He said with a smile, Sister Lan, your technique is not bad. Your comprehension of the inscriptions is quite deep. You've mastered it so quickly. Brat, are you making fun of me? Lan Fengjin snorted. She knew that her talent in inscriptions was far inferior to Qin Yun's. Previously, Qin Yun had helped her refine the strange talisman and quickly mastered the spirit inscriptions. No way, I'm praising you, Qin Yun said with a chuckle. Lan Fengjin rolled her eyes at him and continued to seriously inscribe spirit inscriptions. Right now, she was only inscribing spirit inscriptions on the beast's skin. She did not actually create a spirit array. More than 2 hours later, Lan Fengjin was finally done. She left the Spirit Mountain with Qin Yun and returned to the Star Xianwu Academy. After 2 to 3 days of travel, Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin returned to the Heaven's Pride Academy. When they returned, they saw Xue Zai sitting in the hall with a pale face. When Xue Zai saw Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin return, she hurriedly stood up. However, her body was on the verge of collapse. It was obvious that she was seriously injured. Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin were secretly alarmed. One had to know that Xue Zai's martial spirit was extremely mysterious and strange. It could quickly heal injuries. Even if she was seriously injured, she could recover as long as she rested. Zai, what happened? Where are Huizhong and Murong Shaoran? Lan Fengjin quickly walked over and supported Xue Zai. Sister Lan, we met a very strong opponent in the arena. We don't know what secret technique they used to severely injure our martial spirits, causing our martial spirits to be disconnected from our bodies. Xue Zai looked dejected and was on the verge of crying. Huizhong and Murong are both heavily injured and have been sent to other places for treatment. Martial spirits were extremely important to martial artists. If they lost their martial spirit, it would be equivalent to destroying them. Xue Zai was a very strong woman. If she wasn't in extreme despair, she wouldn't be so sorrowful. Lan Fengjin hurriedly went to investigate Xue Zai's martial spirit. Her expression became extremely solemn as she said in a deep voice, Nangong's ultimate technique, absolute soul palm, a low-grade earth-tier martial skill. A person who could learn such a martial skill had a very high status in Nangong. Was this person also in the Heaven's Pride Academy? As far as I know, there is no such person in the Heaven's Pride Academy. That person is not from the Heaven's Pride Academy. I don't know if he's from Blue Spirit Star Palace. He looks very young, and his name is Zhou Zhonghui. Xue Zai bit her lips and asked, Instructor, can my martial spirit recover? Lan Fengjin asked her to sit down first. She walked back and forth in the hall with a solemn expression. Zhou Zhonghui is indeed from Blue Spirit Star Palace. He is a very talented disciple of Nangong. However, when he was 12 years old, he was imprisoned because he killed more than 10 outer sect disciples. I didn't expect to be released now. He was only imprisoned for 6 years. Originally, he was supposed to be imprisoned for 60 years. She came to Xue Zai's side and let out a long sigh. She said, I will help you think of a way to deal with your martial spirit's injury. You don't have to worry too much for the time being. However, this will take time. It might take a few years for that elder to come out of seclusion. If I can really recover my martial spirit, then waiting for a few years won't be a problem. Xue Zai nodded and felt a lot more at ease. Zai, can I help you check your martial spirit? There was a problem with my martial spirit before. I want to see what your problem is now. Qin Yun said. Xue Zai hurriedly nodded. After Qin Yun obtained her consent, he placed his hand on Xue Zai's lower abdomen and pressed down slightly. He released his mental energy and probed Xue Zai's elemental energy. He closed his eyes and focused his attention on his mental energy. Soon, He saw the situation in Shui Zai's elemental energy. It was a very strong purple glow, but it was very messy and did not take shape at all. A normal martial spirit would condense into a ball. Chapter 239. Battle Arena. Qin Yun, how is it? Shuizai asked softly. Lan Fengjin also stood beside Qin Yun, waiting for the results of his investigation. Qin Yun had a problem with his martial spirit before, and he had to resolve it himself. Therefore, Shuizai secretly hoped that Qin Yun could help her deal with the injuries of her martial spirit as soon as possible. Qin Yun said with a frown, "Your martial spirit is in a mess. The reason why you can't sense your martial spirit should be because the absolute soul palm contains a special kind of mental power that has disrupted the mental structure of your martial spirit." When Lan Fengjin heard Qin Yun's analysis, she was slightly alarmed. She hurriedly said, "That's right. The injuries caused by the absolute soul palm are basically like this. Do you have any ideas? First, we need to gather the scattered martial spirits together. The reason why the martial spirit is scattered is because of the power of the absolute soul palm entangling the martial spirit, and the other reason is because the mental part of the martial spirit is in a mess." Qin Yun had mastered the art of soul refining. He had a better understanding of the martial spirit and could observe it in more detail. He could discover things that many people were unable to discover. "Qin Yun, then what should I do?" Shuizai hurriedly asked. Qin Yun sat down and said slowly, "I'll give it a try first and let you achieve inner Yuan spirit aura. After your inner Yuan spirit aura, you don't need to use your martial spirit. You can also use your spirit vein and inner Yuan to absorb spiritual energy into your body. The reason why you are so weak right now is because you're unable to absorb spiritual energy into your body. You do not have your own inner strength in your inner Yuan. Even if someone were to transfer inner strength to you, you would not be able to produce inner strength on your own. Once that inner strength is used up, you would become weak." Lan Fengjin said in surprise, "You're right, but can you really help others with their inner Yuan spirit aura? Is there such a thing?" "We'll know once we try." Qin Yun smiled and said, "Sister Lan, use your own inner force to sort out the injuries on her body. Her body is still injured, causing her meridians to be blocked. Let's talk about it after that." Lan Fengjin nodded and channeled her inner force into Shui Zai's body to help her heal her injuries. More than 2 hours later, Lan Fengjin said, "It's about time. It's your turn." Shui Zai's complexion was much better. She wasn't as scary as before. Qin Yun placed his hands on Shui Zai's abdomen and closed his eyes. He focused and released his mental energy from his nether sun inner core. It was like a line that connected with Shui Zai's inner Yuan. At that moment, Shui Zai felt very strange. She could feel Qin Yun's terrifying power, but it was extremely gentle. Furthermore, she could feel Qin Yun's heartbeat. Qin Yun allowed his mental force to establish a relationship with Shui Zai's elemental energy and control the rotation of her elemental energy. Shui Zai was secretly pleasantly surprised because she had unknowingly started breathing with her elemental energy. She had achieved the inner Yuan spirit breath. After Zai, she spirit Qi Yun. Yun, Yun, Yun. Yun, Yun, Yun said. Xian after Yun, 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 Yun said. Yun, 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 Yun said Yun, 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 Yun is Yun. Yun is Yun is Yun is Yun. Yun, Yun is Yun is Yun. Only the inner Yuan spirit breath can achieve such a state. Legend has it that some seniors with extremely high attainments in a martial Dao can also help the juniors with their inner Yuan spirit breath. But you're only 16 years old. Qin Yun smiled and asked, "Sister Lan, is your inner Yuan spirit breath? Do you want me to help you?" "Of course I can. I just can't cultivate a primordial spirit. Can you help me?" Lan Fengjin suddenly recalled that Qin Yun could release his primordial spirit. Furthermore, he had been able to do so for a long time. She could not help but be secretly shocked. "If there's a chance in the future, I can give it a try. However, Let's first cure Zai, and then we can settle the score with that Zhou Zhonghui. Qin Yin secretly clenched his fists and said coldly. Shuizai was much better now. She opened her eyes and said, the Star Xianwu Academy's arena is also open to the Blue Spirit Star Palace and the other martial academies. That's why they're all here. On one hand, it's to earn Xian points, and on the other hand, it's to become famous. AI, she sighed and continued. We were originally a fighting group. I don't know why, but we met such a fellow. We don't know much about him either. I remember that you can't injure anyone in the arena. If you injure someone, you need to be punished. Qin Yun's face darkened. Has Zhou Zhonghui been punished? Shuizai shook her head. No, because he is not a student of the Star Xianwu Academy. The rules of the arena are only valid for the students of the Star Xianwu Academy. If you were to compete with him, you would not be able to injure him, so it would be very difficult for the students of the Star Xianwu Academy to win. Qin Yun said, Zai, after your inner yuan is filled with inner force, try to control it and gather the scattered martial spirit together. Then, force out the power of the absolute soul palm that does not belong to you. If everything goes well, your martial spirit should be able to recover in a few days. Shuizai could absorb spiritual energy into her body. When she heard Qin Yun's words, she was extremely happy and immediately thanked Qin Yun. Originally, she had thought that she was finished. Even though Lan Fengjin had said that she could find someone to cure her, that would only be a matter of a few years later. She never expected Qin Yun to cure her in an instant. Huazhong and Murong. Their martial spirits are not injured. They only suffered from serious external and internal injuries. Zhou Zhonghui is also at the 8th level martial body realm. I am the greatest threat to him, which is why he attacked me. Shuizai said. Lan Fengjin patted her shoulder and said with a chuckle, Zai, go back to your room and rest. As for that Zhou Zhonghui, we will think of a way to deal with him. Shuizai got up and returned to her room. Lan Fengjin waited for Shuizai to return to her room before saying, Qin Yun, what do you plan to do? Even if you go to the arena to challenge Zhou Zhonghui, you can't see him get injured. There's really something wrong with the rules of your Star Xianwu Academy. Qin Yun sat on the chair with a solemn expression. He said, I have to first figure out if this fellow is targeting me when he attacks Yi and company. If he's targeting me, then I definitely can't hide here like a turtle. You're so famous. If I defeat you, I will be able to obtain the same fame as you. Zhou Zhonghui's attack on Huazhong and the others is very likely to be to force you to take action. Lan Fengjin said, if you really go to the arena to compete, regardless of whether you win or lose, you will still lose. If he won, he would be punished by the Star Xianwu Academy. As for how he would be punished, there was no standard. Usually, he would be imprisoned. Some of them would be imprisoned for a few years, or even decades. I'm going to the arena now. Qin Yun had already made his decision as he walked out the door. Lan Fengjin had a certain understanding of Qin Yun. She knew that she could not persuade him, so she did not stop him. What she needed to do now was to investigate Zhou Zhonghui's situation. The arena was located in the east of the center of the Star Xianwu Academy. It was a circular, open-air building that could accommodate many people. To enter and watch the martial arts competition, one would need to pay a few hundred crystal coins. If one wanted to compete, they would need to register. The registration fee was very expensive. It required 1,000,000 crystal coins. However, to the students of the Star Xianwu Academy, 1,000,000 crystal coins was nothing. If he could win in the martial arts competition and win Xian points, the things he could exchange for are not things that could be bought with crystal coins. Many students, in order to obtain more Xian points, would dive into the arena to compete with others. As long as he won, he would be rewarded with Xian points. In the past, the Star Xianwu Academy had a strict rule that one could not kill or seriously injure one's opponent during a martial arts competition in the arena. Therefore, when the students competed in martial arts, they were very at ease. And now, due to special circumstances, the Star Xianwu Academy was open to the Blue Spirit Star Palace and the other martial academies, causing many students to pour in. As for foreign students, they would not be punished if they severely injured others during a martial arts competition. The Star Xianwu Academy did not have the authority to punish the students of the other martial academies. Therefore, many students of the Star Xianwu Academy did not dare to participate. This was because they would be at a great disadvantage if they participated in this kind of martial arts competition. Although the students of the Star Xianwu Academy could not participate, they could earn more crystal coins in the arena every day. This was also the reason why the Star Xianwu Academy did not want to change the rules. If the rules were changed, the viewing value of the martial arts competition would be greatly reduced. There would not be that many people watching the battle, and they would not be able to earn crystal coins. When Qin Yun registered, he understood the relevant rules. If a student of the Star Xianwu Academy severely injured or killed his opponent during a martial arts competition, he would have to go to jail and be locked in the dungeon of the Star Xianwu Academy. The shortest would be 2 months, and the longest would be 50 years. If one did not want to be locked up for too long, they could use a certain amount of crystal coins to reduce the time spent in prison. 10 million crystal coins could reduce a year's time. This arena is a place to purely earn crystal coins. As long as you have crystal coins, you can reduce your punishment. That's not bad. Qin Yun smiled to himself before registering his name. When he registered at the counter, the old man was extremely surprised when he saw Qin Yun's name. In the Star Xianwu Academy, many people knew his personality. If he were to compete with his personality, there would definitely be a situation where his opponent would be severely injured. Qin Yun, are you sure you want to register? In the past few days, there have been no students from the Star Xianwu Academy participating. I believe you know the reason. The old man said, Yes, I'm sure I want to register. Qin Yun nodded. The old man could only do as he was told. He registered Qin Yun and collected a registration fee of 1 million. In the inner hall of the arena, many people were surprised when they saw Qin Yun register. They began to discuss amongst themselves. Qin Yun, you are currently only a beginner warrior. You need to win 10 matches in a row before you can become an intermediate warrior. Then, you need to win 10 more intermediate warriors in a row before you can become an advanced warrior, and so on. The highest level is a king-level warrior. The old man said, If you pay 100,000 crystal coins, we can immediately arrange a martial arts competition for you. Furthermore, the time is up to you. Otherwise, you'll need to wait patiently for a few days. There seems to be a rule. As long as I challenge an intermediate warrior, I can immediately become an intermediate warrior, right? Qin Yun asked. That's right. However, all the intermediate warriors are outsiders. It's very disadvantageous for you to challenge warriors of this level from the very beginning. The old man, sitting at the counter, said. Chapter 240. Intermediate agent. The old man seemed to recall the matter of Huizhong and company being injured. He immediately understood that Qin Yun's goal in coming here was to avenge his friend. Of course you can, but you have to pay 500,000 crystal coins. Who do you want to challenge? It's only limited to the intermediate arena. The old man asked. Zhou Zhonghui. Qin Yun said, I'm sorry. Zhou Zhonghui is a high-level warrior. You can't challenge him yet. So, you should start by challenging an intermediate warrior. As long as you can defeat an intermediate warrior, you will immediately be promoted to an intermediate warrior. Qin Yun could only agree to it for now. He asked, What's the cultivation level of the mid-level agent you arranged for me? Is it on par with me? The old man chuckled and said, Intermediate warriors are all at the 8th level martial body realm. If there was a 7th level martial body realm martial artist, he would have been beaten down long ago. Therefore, the people I arranged for you are all martial artists at the 8th level martial body realm. If I win, how many Xian points will I get? Qin Yun was also rather concerned about this. The main reason was that he had no other way to earn Xian points. 1 million Xian points per match. If you lose, you will need to deduct 1 million Xian points. If you're a high-level warrior, you can obtain 10 million Xian points if you win a match. If you lose, you will also have to deduct 10 million Xian points. Qin Yun was secretly alarmed. This reward was extremely considerable. If he won 10 high-level matches in a row, it would be 100 million Xian points. He asked, what about the spirit-level arena and king-level arena? The spirit-level arena is filled with martial artists at the 9th level martial body realm. If they win a match, they will receive 50 million Xian points. If they lose, they will also need to deduct 50 million Xian points. It was like a bet. As for the king-level arena, that is something that only martial Dao realm cultivators can fight. The king-level warriors are all teachers. If you win a match, you will be able to obtain 200 million Xian points, and if you lose, you will also need to deduct 200 million. To be able to obtain so many Xian points by winning a match in the king-level arena was an incomparable temptation. However, the king-level arena was filled with teachers of the martial Dao realm, so it was difficult for the students to win. Even young martial Dao realm cultivators like Yang Shiyu or Xiao Yang Long might not be able to win in the king-level arena. However, Qin Yun felt that he could win in the spirit arena. The spirit-level arena was only at the 9th level martial body realm. He had a core that was comparable to the 9th level martial body realm. Senior, if I enter the spirit-level arena, will I be able to fight often? Qin Yun asked, if I don't have a fight, even if I obtain a lot of Xian points, it's just a decoration. If you are a spirit-level doja, as long as you give us 10 million crystal coins, we can help you arrange a duel. Of course, if the other party refuses, he will have to give us 10 million crystal coins. Then, the two of you will compete to see who can offer more crystal coins. If you offer more, he'll have to fight. If he offers more, he can choose not to fight. When Qin Yun heard the rules, he cursed inwardly. He had no choice but to admire the arena's methods of earning crystal coins. This is 100,000 crystal coins. Arrange a person for me. Qin Yun took out his crystal coin card and handed it to the old man. All right, I'll arrange it now. The old man chuckled. Then he took out a glowing crystal board and looked at the words and numbers on it. After he operated the crystal board, he said, your match today will be in the evening. The person you will be fighting against is a middle-aged man from the Tianxian Martial School. His name is Lu Guang, and he is at the 8th level martial body realm. Prepare yourself. Qin Yun came to the arena and found a very high seat to sit down. The spectator seats in the arena were all tiered seats. There were many spectating students sitting in their seats as they looked down at the circular battling platform that was more than 100 meters wide. The huge battling platform looked like it was made of bronze. There were many spirit inscriptions that could absorb energy engraved on it. Furthermore, there was a huge formation that released a barrier that enveloped the battling platform. This battling platform is so powerful, and it's been around for many years. The spirit inscriptions carved on it are all of a very high level, and there might even be Xian runes. Although Qin Yun was at a high altitude, he could observe the profound inscriptions on the battling platform. There was a rumor that even if more than one martial Dao realm cultivator were to compete on the battling platform, it would not affect the audience. He did not know if this was true or not. Every match had a time limit. An hourglass was used to time a match. If it was a draw, neither side would receive any rewards. Qin Yun estimated the time of the hourglass. It was only an hour. As long as I can knock the opponent off the battling platform, it will be considered my victory. Qin Yun looked at the martial arts competition below. They were two youths with a cultivation at the 7th level martial body realm. They were beginner-level warriors. During the martial arts competition, their attacks were extremely vicious. They wished that they could kill each other, so they did not think of forcing each other off the battling platform. I finally understand. The reason why the arena hasn't released the new rules for so long is to watch the disciples of the other martial academies and Blue Spirit Star Palace fight to the death while the students of the Star Xianwu Academy will be fine. Qin Yun was suddenly enlightened. When he had registered, the old man had tried to persuade him not to register because he was a student of the Star Xianwu Academy. The arena only provided the venue and then acted as an intermediary. It allowed the other party to bet Xian points and then collect the registration fee, viewing fee, challenge fee, and so on. It was easy to earn a large amount of crystal coins. It was not easy to obtain Xian points. Many warriors who were confident in their own strength rushed here to participate in the gambling battle. Qin Yun calculated that he did not have many Xian points. He only had a little over 1,000,000 Xian points left. If he wanted to challenge the high-level arena, he would need 10 million Xian points to do so. Looks like I have to fight at least 10 intermediate matches no matter what. Qin Yun sighed to himself. This way, he could not immediately challenge Zhou Zhonghui. 1,000,000 Xian points is equivalent to a Class 8 magic core. If I use a low-grade spirit weapon to exchange for it, I can easily exchange for it. This way, I only need to make an agreement with the other party and give them a low-grade spirit weapon to make them admit defeat. Qin Yun was only thinking about it. After a few consecutive battles, it was already evening. Qin Yun, who was sitting in the audience, was also secretly looking forward to his appearance. Next match, beginner warrior Qin Yun and intermediate warrior Lu Guang. Please enter the arena. Qin Yun. When they heard this name, the entire arena immediately let out a wave of exclamations. Did I hear wrongly? Qin Yun is a student of the Star Xianwu Academy. When he is competing in martial arts, he cannot seriously injure others. Wouldn't it be very aggrieving for him to come here? Is it that Qin Yun who has just stepped into the 8th level martial body realm? This fellow is here to join the fun. It is said that he has more than 300 million Xian points, but he has used them all. He came here to earn Xian points? There's a show to watch. Qin Yun's martial arts competition would definitely be exciting. This fellow had killed and crippled a few crown princes. None of the geniuses who competed with him had a good ending. Furthermore, he even wants to challenge Xiao Yanglong, who is in the martial Dao realm. One arrogant fellow. He's only 16 years old. Why is he so arrogant? As these people discussed, they suddenly saw a dark-skinned, handsome young man in black clothes stand up. The youth was tall, and his eyes were deep. The calmness on his face did not match his youthful appearance. This was Qin Yun. He looked at the youths who had just spoken. The might that shot out from his eyes caused them to not even dare to breathe. Qin Yun sat in the upper echelons of the spectators' stands and slowly walked down. The spectators near him immediately quietened down as their gazes gathered on him. Being watched by countless pairs of eyes, Qin Yun remained calm as he walked down the dueling platform at a leisurely pace. Many people had only heard of Qin Yun's name, but they had never seen him before. When many girls saw his resolute and handsome face, their beautiful eyes could not help but light up. Qin Yun's temperament was indeed extraordinary. He was a crown prince and a top genius. However, he did not look spoiled or arrogant at all. He was not like the other young masters from famous families who were arrogant and spoiled. They always had a high and mighty attitude. In particular, Qin Yun's calmness and restrained aura made people secretly exclaim in admiration. A 16-year-old youth had been tempered by all sorts of things and had developed a calm heart. This was something that many disciples of aristocratic families could not compare to. Qin Yun stood on the battling platform and sized up Lu Guang. Lu Guang was a middle-aged man with a long face and a short and fat body. He had a beard on his chin and wore black hard armor. He was an old student from the Tianxian Martial School. He was very calm when facing Qin Yun. He did not feel fear because his opponent had the title of Genius Assassin. Lu Guang sneered and said, "Young man, I admire you. This kind of martial arts competition will only tie your hands and feet. However, you still came to participate and you were so confident. Do you think that you can defeat me without injuring me?" During martial arts competition, one could not use weapons. Qin Yun's giant King Spirit hammer was also terrifying. Now that he could not use it, no one could guess if he would be able to win. Lan Fengjin was also watching from high up in the spectator stands. She did not know how Qin Yun would defeat his opponent. It was not easy to get off the dueling platform without injuring the opponent. Many 8th level martial artists believed that they would not be able to do it. "Begin!" The referee in charge of the match suddenly shouted, his voice shaking the entire arena. Lu Guang also shouted in vain. He took heavy and violent steps, like an angry beast galloping, trampling on the bronze battling platform, producing a dong-dong-dong sound. The momentum was extremely shocking. If one could reach the realm of condensing inner force, their body would become even stronger. The golden bone energy they released would far surpass that of a martial artist who had just stepped into the 8th level martial body. As for Lu Guang, he was at the 8th level martial body realm that could condense inner supreme force. The inner strength that his body emitted was filled with tyranny, as if it could destroy everything. Qin Yun stood firmly on the spot, dozens of meters away from Lu Guang. Although Lu Guang's sprinting momentum was very fierce, his speed was not very fast. It took him more than 3 seconds to sprint dozens of meters, but he had condensed a very strong inner strength. Chapter 241. Beyond endurance. Qin Yun's terrifying roar caused everyone in the arena to feel a sharp pain in their eardrums. They were all dumbfounded as they looked at the arena. Lu Guang was sent flying and landed beside the battling platform. He slowly got up. He could not hear anything at all. Furthermore, his vision was blurry and his head was dizzy. Just as Lu Guang was feeling terrified, he suddenly felt a gust of wind approaching him. Qin Yun quickly rushed over and struck Lu Guang with his palm. A gentle wind blew Lu Guang, who had yet to stabilize himself, off the battling platform. Lu Guang defeated. Qin Yun wins. The old referee shouted. He felt that his roar was terrifying enough, and Qin Yun's roar was even more terrifying. Lu Guang was only stunned by the sudden sound wave. Although his body had suffered a strong impact, it was not a serious problem. It was not a serious injury. Therefore, Qin Yun did not violate the rules. He was able to successfully obtain victory in this match and obtain 1,000,000 Shin points as a reward. The entire audience immediately burst into a thunderous discussion. They were all discussing Qin Yun's sound wave martial art. It was a martial art that Qin Yun had comprehended from the Heavenly Lion totem tattoo. It was called the Heavenly Lion's Roar. If one did not have a good defense, they would be caught off guard by this move. Qin Yun had used this move against others time and time again. Every time, it would have a very good effect. After he won, he hurriedly went to the counter to look for the old man. He had defeated an intermediate warrior, so he was also an intermediate warrior. Now, because he did not have enough Shin points, he could not challenge a high-level warrior. Qin Yun gave the old man another 100,000 crystal coins and told him to quickly arrange the next match. At this moment, his goal in this arena was not only to defeat Zhou Zhonghui, but also to win Shin points. When the sky turned dark, Qin Yun still had one more battle. It was also the last match of the day. Originally, everyone was about to leave, but when they heard that it was Qin Yun's duel, they all stayed. In the arena, tens of thousands of people were in a heated discussion. Qin Yun's martial arts had exceeded their expectations. With just a roar, he had beaten his opponent into a daze and easily won. When they saw Qin Yun appear on the battling platform again, everyone perked up. The one competing with Qin Yun was also a middle-aged man named Gao Hu. He was a burly man with a full beard. He was from the Ling Xianwu Academy. Gao Hu, isn't this a young general of the Tianling Empire? Yes, he is a student of the Lin Xianwu Academy, but he is also a general of the Tianling Empire. His strength is unfathomable, and it is said that he will soon be able to step into the 9th level martial body realm. His martial spirit is the Golden Axe martial spirit. In this kind of martial arts competition where weapons are restricted, a guy with a weapon martial spirit is the most terrifying. Moreover, it's a weapon martial spirit. Gao Hu is an intermediate warrior who has won 9 consecutive matches. If he defeats Qin Yun, he will be a high-level warrior. From the discussions of the crowd, Qin Yun had a rough understanding of the opponent in front of him. The generals of the Tianling Empire were his enemies, because the crown prince of the Tianling Empire was killed by him. If Gao Hu were to kill Qin Yun here, he would definitely be rewarded by the Empire when he returned. Therefore, he would definitely not show mercy during the martial arts competition. Qin Yun, others might be afraid of you, but I am not, Gao Hu said with a sneer. You are only relying on the body, securing talisman, and a high-grade spirit artifact to possess the strength to rival a 9th-level martial body. You cannot use these things here, and your strength is only at that level. You're not my match at all. Qin Yun smiled slightly. You are really confident. You are as confident as your crown prince. Qin Yun, don't be complacent. You were able to defeat our crown prince with external strength. That is not your true strength. Gao Hu laughed. I admit that you are indeed a good inscription master. Otherwise, with your little talent, Xiao Yuelon would not even have a good opinion of you. The reason why she wants to marry you is because she has taken a fancy to the inscriptions you have mastered. Actually, she also wants to obtain your inscriptions. She is not sincere to you at all. And you idiot, you are so proud of yourself because of this. You are just a pitiful worm that was used by that slut, Xiao Yuelon. Even I feel some sympathy for you. Qin Yun's expression turned cold as he asked in a deep voice, Did you just scold Yuelon? Gao Hu laughed out loud. That's right, I was scolding Xiao Yuelon. Xiao Yuelon is a slut. So what if I scolded her? What do you do to me? In this martial arts arena, you can't injure me, huh? Qin Yun clenched his fists tightly and swallowed his saliva. He was indeed unable to injure Gao Hu in a martial arts arena. Therefore, he felt extremely aggrieved. When Gao Hu saw Qin Yun's angry expression, he became even happier. He laughed sinisterly and said, Qin Yun, your wife, Xiao Yuelon, is a whore through and through. Your mother is also a lowly woman from the countryside. She, a village girl, actually became the Tianqin Empress, but so what? She is still an incomparably lowly village girl. She died a long time ago, and it can only be said that she died a good death. As for you, your body also flows with her lowly bloodline. Gao Hu's scolding caused the audience to boil with excitement. Qin Yun, he scolded your wife and mother like this. You must beat him to death. Qin Yun, don't care so much. Cripple him. Beat him to death. Beat him to death. Beat him to death. Many people felt that Gao Hu had gone overboard with his scolding. They all encouraged Qin Yun and shouted loudly. If Qin Yun were to seriously injure or kill Gao Hu, he would be severely punished. This was also something that many people had overlooked. Ha ha! You don't dare, you coward! Gao Hu laughed complacently. Even the calm Qin Yun was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged. Let the match begin. The old man shouted and announced the start of the match. The moment the match began, Qin Yun roared angrily and used the heavenly lion's roar. An incomparably terrifying gust of wind, accompanied by the roar of a furious lion that shook the heavens, surged towards Gao Hu like a huge wave. Gao Hu was already prepared, and his own strength was not weak either. He squatted in a horse stance, and his feet were firmly pressed against the ground. His body was covered by a barrier of air. Qin Yun's sound wave did not have much an effect on Gao Hu. It only pushed his tall and sturdy body back by more than 10 meters. Humph! Qin Yun grunted. He seemed to know that his heavenly lion's roar was useless against Gao Hu. After all, Gao Hu was only a few dozen meters away from him. Therefore, after he roared out the heavenly lion's roar, he used the fire cloud steps and charged forward. In an instant, he arrived in front of Gao Hu and punched out a few times. The wind from his punches was like thunder as it collided with the air, producing a sharp, whistling sound. It was extremely terrifying. Gao Hu was also secretly alarmed. Qin Yun's strength was far stronger than he had expected. However, he was not worried because Qin Yun did not dare to attack him heavily. However, he could. The corner of Gao Hu's mouth curled into a complacent smile. As he cursed Qin Yun with vulgar words, he used despicable and ruthless moves to attack Qin Yun. Many people frowned when they saw this. Qin Yun, kill him. Kill him. He scolded your family like that. Are you just going to endure it? If you're a man, don't be a coward. Qin Yun, a coward. A coward. Qin Yun is a coward, a big coward. Qin Yun is a coward, a big coward. The onlookers were not afraid of blowing things up. Many busybodies were shouting at the side, adding fuel to the fire for Qin Yun. Their goal was to infuriate Qin Yun and watch him kill Gao Hu before accepting the severe punishment of the Star Xianwu Academy. Lan Fengjin frowned as she watched. She also felt aggrieved for Qin Yun. Everyone else could tell that Qin Yun had not used his full strength, much less her. Although many people scolded Qin Yun for being cowardly, they could not help but admire Qin Yun's calmness. He was originally very angry, but the more he fought, the calmer he became. He easily dodged Gao Hu's giant arm that had turned into an axe. On the other hand, Gao Hu was constantly cursing Qin Yun furiously. He had become extremely infuriated because, after so long, he was unable to touch Qin Yun at all. Furthermore, when he attacked Qin Yun, he had to harden his strength and use his inner strength from time to time. If this continued, he would definitely be exhausted of his inner strength. At that time, he would not have enough inner strength to resist Qin Yun and would be knocked down from the battling platform by Qin Yun's heavenly lion's roar. Qin Yun, hurry up and kill this fellow. You can endure him insulting your beloved wife and dead mother like that. The reason why we live is to fight for our honor. That's right, quickly get rid of him. If you only let him lose unscathed, then I've misjudged you. Isn't it just being punished by the Star Xian Wu Academy? At most, I'll be locked up for 8 to 10 years. When I come out, I'll still be a good man. Qin Yun, the hourglass is about to run out. If you don't attack now, you won't have a chance. When many people saw how patient Qin Yun was, they felt suffocated. They really wished to see Qin Yun kill a wretch like Gao Hu. Qin Yun, tell Xiao Yuan not to let her step into our Tianling Empire. Otherwise, we will definitely capture her, and then, before Gao Hu could finish speaking, Qin Yun roared. Purple gold flames overflowed from his arm as he waved it vigorously, setting off a wave of purple gold flames. Qin Yun finally launched a ferocious counterattack. The audience in the arena cheered. This was the moment they had been waiting for a long time. Lan Fengjin clenched her fists tightly because she knew that Qin Yun's target was Zhou Zhonghui. If he killed Gao Hu here, he would not have a chance to face Zhou Zhonghui. On the battling platform, Gao Hu was suddenly enveloped by the purple gold flames that Qin Yun had shot out. No one could see him, and they thought that he was heavily injured. It was also at this moment that Qin Yun charged into the flames. Why? In the arena, a burst of earth-shaking, excited shouts erupted. That was because they knew that Gao Hu was completely finished. Qin Yun charged into the flames and used spirit concentration kill. He used his mental energy to ruthlessly attack Gao Hu's mind, causing him to let out a miserable scream. Although the crowd could not see what was happening within the purple gold flames, they were extremely excited when they heard Gao Hu's pig-like screams. After Qin Yun used the spirit concentration kill to knock Gao Hu unconscious, he hurriedly took out an axe from his storage space and stuffed it into Gao Hu's hand. Then, he used the Imperial Spirit technique to control Gao Hu's body and arm. The purple gold flames suddenly disappeared. Everyone saw Gao Hu raise a gigantic axe and chop down at Qin Yun. Chapter 242. Raging Dragon Claw. A moment Gao Hu raised his axe and slashed at Qin Yun. The referee hurriedly made his move. However, Qin Yun was even faster. His powerful heavenly lion arm had long since exploded with purple gold lightning, transforming into a terrifying lion claw. This was the heavenly lion fighting dragon claw. The moment Qin Yun's heavenly lion fighting dragon claw appeared, he immediately executed the six-style wind slayer. Suddenly, countless terrifying lion claw shadows appeared and crazily enveloped Gao Hu's body. With a few swoosh, 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 Gao Hu, who was holding his gigantic axe high up in the air, was struck by the six-style wind slayer claw. Even the gigantic axe had shattered into many pieces. Following that, Qin Yun angrily punched out. His fist flashed with a blinding light as an incomparably scorching flame smashed onto the pile of debris on the ground. Boom! The martial stage suddenly shook for a moment. The entire arena was shaken by this punch. The dull explosion shook the entire Star Xian Wu Academy. The referee came over, but not even dregs of Gao Hu remained. Even the fragments of a gigantic axe were turned to ashes by Qin Yun's flaming light fist. The old referee was also stunned on the battling platform. He was at the 9th level martial body realm and was not weak in any aspect. Even though he had used his fastest speed, he still could not stop Qin Yun. Furthermore, he could feel Qin Yun's terrifying strength at such a close distance. Qin Yun's expression was calm as he said indifferently, "He suddenly used a weapon and broke the rules, causing my life to be in danger. Therefore, I had no choice but to finish him off as soon as possible." Everyone had seen what kind of person Gao Hu was. His mouth was filled with vulgarities as he insulted the other party's family. Furthermore, his moves were all despicable. He had been attacking Qin Yun for a long time and had been crazily counterattacked. It was normal for him to take out his weapon in anger to slash at Qin Yun. No one knew that the axe in Gao Hu's hand had been stuffed into his hands by Qin Yun. At that time, Gao had fallen into a semi-conscious state after being attacked by Qin Yun's spirit concentration kill. After that, he used his mental power to control his body and tightly grabbed the gigantic axe as he slashed at Qin Yun. Because of the purple gold flames, no one could see what was happening inside. They could only see the scene of Gao Hu raising his gigantic axe and slashing at Qin Yun after the purple gold flames disappeared. "I didn't break the rules, did I?" Qin Yun looked at the old judge and said with a frown, "He violated the rules first, so I killed him and shouldn't be punished." A few old men hurriedly walked over and discussed with each other. A moment later, the old referee shouted, "During the martial arts competition, Gao Hu violated the rules by using weapons." In order to protect himself, Qin Yun attacked his opponent with all his might. Due to the special circumstances, as a student of the Star Xianwu Academy, he did not violate the rules by injuring or killing his opponent in the arena. Also, Qin Yun has obtained victory in this competition. Everyone had yet to regain their senses. Their minds were still replaying the scene of Qin Yun using the heavenly lion fighting dragon claw to kill Gao Hu because it was too terrifying, especially those people who kept cursing Qin Yun as a coward. At this moment, they were all terrified and did not even dare to look at Qin Yun. Because Gao Hu had insulted Qin Yun's family, he had died without a trace. The only remaining ashes had even been blown away. Today's dojo was about to close. The final battle was something that many people could not forget for a long time. On the way out of the dojo, they kept talking about it. Qin Yun returned to the Heaven's Pride Academy and came to the small building by the river. He stood at the door and waited for Lan Fengjin. A moment later, he saw a tall blue figure appear in the distance. Lan Fengjin, who was wearing a tight blue outfit, was walking over quickly. 2 million Shin points, just like that, not bad, Lan Fengjin said with a smile. Then, she entered the small building and let Qin Yun sit down and rest. After Qin Yun sat down, he drank the tea that Lan Fengjin had poured. Lan Fengjin said in a low voice, "At the end of the match, it seemed a little strange. That guy's speed of brandishing his axe was a little too slow. Did you do something to him?" After Qin Yun finished drinking his tea, he said with a smile, "Sister Lan, I gave him that axe." When Lan Fengjin heard this, she was stunned for a moment before she immediately understood what was going on. She giggled and praised, "You're amazing. I now have a total of 3 million Shin points. If I challenge another 7 intermediate warriors, I will be able to challenge the high-level warrior Zhou Zhonghui. At that time, this move will definitely not be useful. Zhou Zhonghui is from Blue Spirit Star Palace, and he is a genius. He has mastered a terrifying martial skill and is not easy to deal with." Qin Yun's expression turned slightly serious. Lan Fengjin nodded and said, "That's right. Zhou Zhonghui's strength is unfathomable. It's said that his inner Yuan energy is almost at the point of forming a Vajra inner core. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to use the earth-level martial art, the absolute soul palm, so proficiently. Also, his mental force is very strong. However, he rarely uses his mental force to fight. There are rumors that he's been hiding the strength of his mental force all this time in order to catch his opponent off guard." Qin Yun took a light breath and gripped his teacup tightly. he said in a low voice. If the other party also uses mental force, then it will be troublesome. Perhaps at that time, I will be destined to walk a dead end. I understand the punishment rules of the arena. If you kill someone in the arena, you will be sentenced to 50 years. This is the highest punishment set by your star Xian Wu Academy. Lan Fengjin said, however, you can use crystal coins to reduce your punishment. 10 million can reduce your punishment by 1 year. If you want to avoid punishment, you have to pay 500 million crystal coins. However, even if you take out 500 million crystal coins, you will still have to symbolically go to prison for a few months. Damn it, Qin Yun cursed softly. In order to kill that bastard Zhou Zhonghui, I have to spend a few 100 million crystal coins. Lan Fengjin sighed. You can choose not to kill him and just cripple him. As long as he is still alive, you will only be sentenced to 20 to 30 years of imprisonment. It will only be 200 to 300 million. Sister Lan, what is Zhou Zhonghui's martial spirit? Qin Yun asked. I don't know either. I heard it's a legendary martial spirit. Lan Fengjin thought for a moment and said, for it to be so secretive, it should be a relatively strong legendary martial spirit. When Qin Yun heard about the legendary martial spirit, he could not help but feel moved. If he defeated Zhou Zhonghui during the martial arts competition and extracted the legendary martial spirit, he would definitely make a huge profit. What do you plan to do now? Lan Fengjin asked. Sister Lan, how many crystal coins do you have? Qin Yun thought for a moment and decided to make preparations. I only have 300 million. If you have any thoughts of killing Zhou Zhonghui, I will temporarily lend you these crystal coins and then help you raise another 200 million crystal coins. Lan Fengjin was not stingy with Qin Yun at all. Just because Qin Yun was a young high-ranked inscription master and had mastered many powerful high-grade spirit inscriptions, she would definitely be able to obtain a greater return than these few 100 million crystal coins in the future. Qin Yun scratched his head and said with a smile, I'm really sorry. I borrowed 300 million crystal coins from you before, and now I've used up all of your remaining crystal coins. He was also secretly shocked. Lan Fengjin was actually so rich. She must be a rich second generation or something. You've already called me Sister Lan. How can I not help you? Moreover, Zhou Zhonghui clearly knows that Huizhong, Murong, and Ziyi are my students, yet he is so heavy-handed. This is also a provocation to my, Lan Fengjin's, dignity. Therefore, I must teach him a lesson and let him know that the consequences of provoking me, Lan Fengjin, are very serious. As Lan Fengjin spoke, her face became filled with anger. She, Lan Fengjin, was a saint in the Blue Spirit Star Palace. She was a young martial Dao cultivator and a high-ranked inscription master. Zhou Zhonghui definitely knew about this. Not only did he not give her any face, he even went to the extent of injuring her students. If this wasn't provocation, what was it? Qin Yun said, this fellow seems to be Nangong's treasure. If I kill him, will it cause Nangong to hunt me down? Lan Fengjin sneered. You don't have to worry, what does Nangong count for? In the future, when you enter the Blue Spirit Star Palace, they won't dare to do anything to you. They're just a bunch of cowards. Qin Yun, if you really fight Zhou Zhonghui, I'll have to spend a lot of money to defeat him. Qin Yun stretched his body and yawned. This is a must. I'm going to rest first. I'll continue to challenge tomorrow. He also wanted to become a high-level warrior as soon as possible. That way, not only would he be able to challenge Zhou Zhonghui, he would also be able to earn Xian points in the high-level arena. Xian points were of great use to him. This was the only way he could quickly earn Xian points. Early the next morning, Qin Yun changed into a set of black skin-tight clothes. When he came out of his room, he did not see Lan Fengjin. However, there was a table full of delicious food. I never thought that a rude woman like Sister Lan would have such a considerate side. Qin Yun rubbed his hands and walked to the table with a grin. He began eating the snacks on the table. He suddenly thought of Yang Shiryu. When he was at the Hua Lingwu Academy, as long as Yang Shiryu had nothing else to do, she would prepare breakfast for him. I wonder how Teacher Yang is doing in the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Now that she has become a saint, she should be doing pretty well. As Qin Yun ate, he thought to himself, Teacher, wait for me for 2 more years. I will definitely defeat Xiao Yanglong. At that time, I won't have to worry about marrying this scum. Qin Yun suddenly saw a note under a plate. He picked it up and could not help but feel happy. That was because Xue Zai had almost recovered. Ziya's martial spirit is very mysterious. The last time I went to investigate, I only knew that it was a purple gold martial spirit. As for what kind of martial spirit it was, I couldn't tell at all. As Qin Yun ate a pastry, he recalled Xue Zai's strange purple gold martial spirit. According to his calculations, Xue Zai should have needed a few days to recover. However, it hadn't even been 2 days, and she was already able to go to the arena with Lan Fengjin. It's good that she can recover. I wonder how third brother Hua and the others are doing. Qin Yun only knew that after they were treated at the Star Xianwu Academy, they were brought back to the Blue Spirit Star Palace by Ho Xingfeng. Qin Yun quickly finished the breakfast on the table and rushed to the arena. He paid 100,000 crystal coins and asked the old man to arrange an opponent for him. Right now, all the students of the Star Xianwu Academy knew that Qin Yun had registered as a fighter. He had won 2 matches in a row in the arena and became an intermediate fighter. This made many students very interested in this, so they came early to buy admission tickets to the arena. The arena was quickly filled with people, and today's admission fee was exceptionally high. Chapter 243. 1 versus 3. Qin Yun was in a hall in the arena, queuing up to pay the crystal coins. One challenge required 100,000 crystal coins, so he had the staff of the arena arrange his opponent. Right now, the arena could earn a lot of crystal coins just by lying down. Many warriors were unhappy, but they could only complain in private. In the hall, the warriors saw Qin Yun and discussed him in whispers in surprise. Last night, Qin Yun's 2 matches were very surprising. In the first match, he defeated his opponent very quickly. In the second match, there were many conflicts. In the end, Qin Yun even killed his opponent until not even dregs were left. And today, many people were looking forward to seeing how Qin Yun would win. Finally, it was Qin Yun's turn. Senior, I'm here again, Qin Yun said with a grin. Thanks to you, our admission tickets are selling very well today, the old man said with a smile. Qin Yun laughed out loud. Since that's the case, then don't take my crystal coins. Just help me arrange an opponent. How about it? The old man shook his head and said, That won't do. I don't have that authority. I still have to collect crystal coins. Miser, Qin Yun snorted. Just as he took out his crystal card, he thought of an idea. The old man saw that Qin Yun was thinking about something and said with a smile, What's wrong? Did you have stage fright? Your performance yesterday was not bad. You should be very satisfied with yourself, right? Are you afraid of encountering someone who will scold you? Senior, can I challenge more than one person? Qin Yun asked. I have 3 million Xin points in my hands. Can I challenge 3 people at once? When the old man heard this, he was immediately dumbfounded. He actually wanted to fight 1 against 3, and he was the one who suggested it. What did you just say? Did I hear wrongly? The old man couldn't believe it as he asked seriously. You didn't hear wrongly. I want to fight 1 against 3. This way, I can quickly obtain Xin points. Qin Yun said with a smile. I can also pay you 300,000 crystal coins. Isn't there a team battle here? I just want to challenge a 3-man agent team. Is that okay? The old man took a deep breath and said, Of course there's no problem, but can you really win? This was 1 against 3. Furthermore, you are a student of our Star Xianwu Academy. When you make your move, you will also have some misgivings. You cannot let go of your hand and fight. You have no confidence in winning. Senior, you're not the one going on stage. What are you worried about? Qin Yun did not mind. He was currently at the 9th level martial body realm. Even if he was at the 9th level martial body realm, he might not be able to defeat him. Therefore, he felt that it would not be a problem for him to face 3 intermediate warriors at the 8th level martial body realm. He was very confident in his own strength and wanted to use this opportunity to see how strong his nether sun inner core was. Since you're so confident, I won't say anything more. I'll help you find an opponent. The elder took Qin Yun's crystal card and collected 300,000 crystal coins. Then, he began searching for an opponent for him. Not long after, the old man said with a smile, I helped you find 3 8th-level martial body cultivators with average strength. They are disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace, from the Eastern Palace. The disciples of the Eastern Palace should be pretty good. Qin Yun said, they are disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace. Would their strength be average? Are you lying to me? Don't you know? The disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace's Eastern Palace are the most ordinary. Especially since they are here to earn Xian points, it can be seen that they are relatively ordinary in the Star Palace. The old man said with a smile. Qin Yun said snappily, Zhou Zhonghui is very strong, right? Could it be that he's only average in Blue Spirit Star Palace? Zhou Zhonghui is a special case. Because he just came out of prison, it's not easy for him to get along in Blue Spirit Star Palace, so he can only come here to earn Xian points. The old man smiled and said, Don't worry, my eyes are definitely not wrong. It'll be your turn to go on stage around noon. Qin Yun took the crystal card and walked out of the hall. He entered the arena and walked to the highest level of the spectator stands. He looked for Lan Fengjin and company. The dueling platform was in the midst of an intense battle. Many people's attention was on the dueling platform, and they did not notice Qin Yun, who was wearing a bamboo hat. Lan Fengjin and Xue Zai were so engrossed in watching the match that they did not even notice Qin Yun when he arrived beside them. Qin Yun gently patted Lan Fengjin's shoulder, but she suddenly grabbed his wrist. It's me. Qin Yun chuckled. Xue Zai also saw Qin Yun and hurriedly said, Qin Yun, is that breakfast delicious? It's all made by me. It's very delicious. So is you who made it. Thank you very much. Like I said, how could a rough woman like Sister Lan know how to make such exquisite things? Qin Yun said with a smile. You're welcome. I'm also thanking you for helping me cure my martial spirit. Furthermore, you even helped me recover my inner Yuan energy. Xue Zai was incomparably impressed by Qin Yun. Damn brat, don't underestimate me. I'll cook a table of delicious food for you another day. Lan Fengjin looked unconvinced as she rolled her eyes at him and asked, When are you going on stage? Do you know who your opponent is? Opponent? I don't know who they are, but the old man in charge of arranging the martial arts competition said that they are from the East Palace. Qin Yun said, Them? Xue Zai frowned and was somewhat puzzled. I'll fight 1 against 3. This way, I can quickly become a high-level warrior. Qin Yun said with a smile. Lan Fengjin and Xue Zai's faces were immediately filled with disbelief as they looked at Qin Yun as though they were looking at a madman. Damn brat, is there something wrong with your brain? Lan Fengjin hurriedly reprimanded. If it was in the wilderness, then forget it. If you used the body securing talisman or something like that, even if you were to face 3 9th-level martial body cultivators, I wouldn't be worried about you. However, in this arena, the restrictions are very great. You can't use spirit artifacts or spirit talismans, nor do you need to seriously injure your opponent. With such conditions, you are no match for 3 8th-level martial body cultivators. Xue Zai hurriedly said, Qin Yun, it's not too late to cancel it now. It's only 300,000 crystal coins. I'll help you pay. It's too dangerous for you to do this. Qin Yun looked indifferent. He was very clear about his own strength. He said with a smile, Don't worry, if I can't beat them, I'll at most admit defeat. I won't die. If that's the case, you'll lose 3 million Xian points. When the time comes, you won't have a single Xian point on your Xian point card. You won't be able to challenge at all. Lan Fengjin was somewhat angry because Qin Yun was too willful. What if I could defeat those 3? Qin Yun smiled faintly as he looked at Lan Fengjin and Xue Zai's beautiful and charming faces. Lan Fengjin snorted, You can't beat the 3 of them at all. Xue Zai nodded and said, I've understood those 3 disciples of the Eastern Palace. They are triplets and their hearts are interlinked. Their coordination is flawless. Not to mention you alone. Even if our team were to go up, we might not be able to defeat them. That damned old man. He actually said that those three fellows' strength is average. He actually lied to a child. Qin Yun cursed angrily. Lan Fengjin sighed. The three triplets of the Eastern Palace are very famous and famous for being powerful. At the age of 18, they are at the 8th level martial body realm. Their martial spirits and spirit veins are all kept a secret. Furthermore, the three of them are very good at team battles. Furthermore, they have defeated 9th level martial body cultivators, so you have no chance of winning. For some reason, Qin Yun looked forward to facing the triplets even more. Why do you look down on me so much? Qin Yun said snappily. It's not that we're looking down on you, but that's the truth. With your conditions in the arena, it's impossible for you to challenge the three of them by yourself. Okay? Lan Fengjin snorted and said, It's fine if you don't believe me. When the time comes, you'll know how powerful they are. Qin Yun, let's go. I'll cancel this battle with you. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble if you lose the 3 million Shin points. Shuezai pulled Qin Yun's hand and led him to the hall. Qin Yun chuckled and said, Since all of you are sure that I will lose, then, if I win, you guys will kiss me. How about it? When Lan Fengjin heard that, she bit her lower lip and gently stepped on Qin Yun's foot. She scolded, You brat, you're still thinking about these things at a time like this. Who told you to think that I won't win? Since you really think so, then bet with me. Anyway, I won't win, and you don't have to kiss me. Qin Yun looked like he deserved a beating, as he said, with a mischievous smile. Lan Fengjin glared at him fiercely and said, If you lose, you should at least give us some expression, right? If I lose, I'll kiss you instead. Qin Yun said with a serious expression. Go to hell. Lan Fengjin punched him on the head. Qin Yun stuck out his tongue and said with a smile, Then what do you think we should do? Shuezai bit her lips as if she had made a huge decision. She said, Don't I still owe you a few Class 9 magic cores? If you lose, I won't have to return the magic cores to you. Lan Fengjin thought for a moment and said, If you lose, then you can help me refine a few talismans, right? No problem, but you have to kiss me first. Qin Yun pointed to his mouth. Lan Fengjin really wanted to slap him. She snorted and said, No, I can only kiss your face. Shuezai also nodded slightly and said, Only kiss the face. For a woman, taking the initiative to kiss a man's face was a very difficult thing to do. It's not like I'm going to win anyway. It's fine if you guys agree to kiss each other. Qin Yun said with a smile. Why don't we stop gambling? Lan Fengjin would not let Qin Yun push his luck. Qin Yun hurriedly said, All right. I'll kiss you on the face, but when the time comes, I'll kiss you back. Lan Fengjin glanced at Shuezai and said, I can promise you that. All right, let's have a high five. Qin Yun raised his palm and struck at Lan Fengjin. Lan Fengjin snorted lightly and clapped with him. Shuezai also extended her jade-like hand and clapped with Qin Yun. Chapter 244. Triple Radiance. Most of the following matches were between intermediate and beginner-level warriors. Out of the 10 matches, only one was a match between high-level warriors. From this, it could be seen that there weren't many high-level warriors, and there were even fewer high-level warriors who were confident in winning. Therefore, high-level warriors rarely challenged them. They would only go on stage when they were in a good state and were extremely confident. The few matches in the morning had allowed Qin Yun to see many martial techniques. It had truly broadened his horizons. He also understood why some students were willing to spend so many crystal coins to watch the martial arts competition. Most of the students had come for all sorts of profound martial techniques. It was noon. It was finally Qin Yun's turn. Qin Yun, enter the arena with triple radiance. The old referee shouted. When the students in the arena heard Qin Yun's name, they were about to exclaim when they heard the words triple radiance. They were immediately stunned. The whole place fell into a dead silence. After a few seconds of silence, bursts of exclamations erupted. The duel between Qin Yun and triple radiance meant that Qin Yun was going to fight 1 against 3. The two words triple radiance were very famous in the arena, because it was the name of a triplet fighter team. The triplets were extremely terrifying. They were invincible existences amongst the intermediate-level warriors. In order to be stable, they used crystal coins to prevent themselves from advancing to a high-level warrior. They stayed at the intermediate level and formed a small team to dominate the intermediate arena. Qin Yin had already arrived at the battling platform. Many people felt that he had gone mad. He actually wanted to challenge the strongest team in the 8th level martial body realm with his own strength. Qin Yin arrived at the battling platform, but triple radiance did not appear. If they did not appear at the designated time, it would mean that they had abandoned the competition and the victor would be Qin Yin. Triple radiance appear very late. Don't worry, they will definitely appear. As long as they are still alive, they will definitely go on stage. After all, only a fool would not want Qin Yin to give away Xian points for free. Qin Yin is really crazy. He just earned 2 million Xian points yesterday, and he actually wants to give away today. He's too eager for quick success. Maybe it's because yesterday's 2 matches were won too easily that he challenged 3 people in one go today. If he wins, that would be 3 million Xian points. After all, he's young and frivolous. He's only 16 years old. When Qin Yin heard the discussions of the crowd, he did not think much of it. That was because Lan Fengjin and Xue Zai had already said the same thing about him. He could understand the opinions of others. After all, they were unable to understand his powerful strength. Another point was that everyone knew that Qin Yin, a student of the Star Xianwu Academy, was that he was greatly restricted in the arena. This would cause him to be unable to compete freely, which would greatly restrict his strength. There would be a period of time to prepare after going on stage, and triple radiance would usually only appear when the preparation time was about to end. Suddenly, someone exclaimed when the preparation time was almost up. 3 radiants have appeared. They're still the same, always appearing so late. Could it be that they're trying to give their opponents psychological pressure? Haha. Qin Yin definitely did not know that his opponent would be so terrifying. Look at his expression. It is very unsightly. Qin Yin was only very unhappy that he had been deceived by the old man, because the old man had said that although these 3 fellows came from the Eastern Palace, their strength was very ordinary. And from the looks of it, the strength of these 3 people was extremely terrifying. Qin Yin looked at the passageway that led to the battling platform. The 3 handsome men dressed in blue tight-fitting clothes were dressed in blue from head to toe. They were triplets and looked exactly the same. They all had slender and beautiful white faces. As soon as they entered the arena, they waved and greeted the audience. They were very polite, and their faces were filled with confident and hearty smiles. Finally, they stepped onto the stage and walked onto the battling platform. They were 50 meters away from Qin Yin. Qin Yin, you are indeed a character. I have long heard of your name. Today, I have finally seen you in person. You did not disappoint us. The man who spoke said with a smile. I can tell that you are more popular than me. Many of the spectators are very friendly to you. Qin Yin smiled bitterly. That's only because we can bring them benefits. If we win against you, they will win a lot of crystal coins. The man who spoke smiled and said, all right, my name is Yao. This is my 2nd brother, Yao, and 3rd brother, Little Yao. The 3 of us have a telepathic connection. Usually, I speak on their behalf. Qin Yin said with a smile, you guys are really a strange combination. I hope you can show mercy. Yao chuckled. Actually, our Eastern Palace's palace master has always hoped that you would come, but it's a pity that you decided to go to the Western Palace. However, we will still be fellow disciples in the future. The disciples of the Eastern Palace are indeed different from the other 3 palaces. Qin Yin smiled. He was somewhat surprised by the other party's politeness. The other 3 palaces are filled with wolves, so they can fight for a lot of resources. Our Eastern Palace is too gentle. So we are the weakest palace in the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Qin Yin suddenly understood that the reason they came to the arena was to earn Xian points. If they were to earn Xian points in the Blue Spirit Star Palace, the competition would be too great. Yao's tone was gentle as he said with a smile, Qin Yin, we will definitely win against you today. We do not wish to injure you in this match, lest we be blamed by your wife in the future, so you better admit defeat. We will give you 300,000 crystal coins. This way, your losses will be reduced. Qin Yun could imagine how domineering Xiao Yuelon was in the Blue Spirit Star Palace. To think that the disciples of the Eastern Palace would be so afraid of her. It's fine. Even if I can't beat you, I won't be injured by you, Qin Yun said with a smile. That's good. Diao heaved a sigh of relief. When the preparation time was over, the audience immediately became excited. They had bet a lot of crystal coins on Triple Radiance. As long as Triple Radiance won, they would be able to win some crystal coins from the arena. The entire audience stood up and shouted, "Triple Radiance will win! Triple Radiance will win!" Waves of roars continuously reverberated out. The entire central area of the Star Xianwu Academy could hear them. They were filled with passion, causing many students outside the arena to want to go in and take a look. When the old referee saw that the hourglass had finished its preparation time, he shouted, "Let the match begin." With a flip of a large hourglass, the martial arts competition officially began. The moment it began, two of the three brothers suddenly moved quickly. They stood at 3 different points and surrounded Qin Yun. "Huh!" The 3 brothers suddenly shouted and shot out 3 balls of blue inner strength from afar. They quickly charged at Qin Yun from 3 directions. Qin Yun's entire body had been tense the entire time. When he heard their shouts, he hurriedly took a few steps and left his original spot, avoiding the 3 balls of blue light that suddenly charged at him. Qin Yun was secretly delighted as he successfully dodged. He thought that the 3 blue balls of light would explode when they collided, but they did not. After the 3 blue balls of light collided, they actually formed a large blue ball of light. And this blue ball of light seemed to be controlled as it fiercely charged at Qin Yun. Qin Yun was caught off guard. He was sent flying by the blue ball of light and nearly fell off the dueling platform. Fortunately, he reacted quickly. When he was sent flying, he adjusted his balance. The moment his feet landed on the ground, he fiercely sprinted to avoid the blue ball of light that was chasing after him. Qin Yun dodged the attack of the blue ball of light and hurriedly charged at one of them. However, just as he was about to rush over, that person suddenly shot out a blue ball of light. This blue ball of light was extremely strange. It was also very fast and contained a very strong energy. After being hit, it was as if he had been hit by a heavy object. Qin Yun hurriedly dodged, but the moment the blue light passed by him, it suddenly exploded. Boom! A blue storm stirred up and sent Qin Yun flying. The black clothes on his body were also in tatters. How strange! Qin Yun cursed in his heart. The audience immediately let out waves of cheers filled with praise. Triple Radiance is indeed powerful. This is their best attack formation, the Triangular Death Formation. The 3 of them are at a point each. Then, through a mysterious cultivation technique, they release balls of inner strength to chase after the people in the triangular formation. From the looks of it, if the people in the triangular formation don't react fast enough, they will be defeated. Even if they react fast enough, they will still be slowly exhausted to death. If Qin Yun were to attack one of them, the 3 of them would release their inner strength together and focus their attacks on him. Furthermore, there is also a floating ball of inner strength that can explode at any time. Qin Yun dodged left and right in the triangular formation, avoiding the blue balls of light one after another. They were all waves of inner strength and inner force. Although he could sometimes dodge them, the balls of light would suddenly explode when they flew past him. The mental strength of these 3 guys is very strong. They're using their mental strength to control their inner strength. Although Qin Yun was in a very sorry state, he was aware of the other party's scheme. He thought to himself, they are not telepathic at all. It's because their mental strength is very strong that they have been using their mental strength to communicate in secret. If that's really the case, then I'll use an even stronger mental strength to destroy the triangular formation they built with their mental strength. In the triangular formation, The mental strength of the three of them will be able to control the high-speed movement of their inner strength. After Qin Yun's analysis, he had also thought of a strategy. With a loud shout, he unleashed a very strong spirit concentration kill. Mental energy was released through the spirit concentration kill. The invisible mental energy was like countless transparent needles that pierced through the triangular formation, destroying the invisible mental energy net. It caused the floating ball of inner strength to lose control and fly into the sky. It collided with the barrier and caused a violent explosion. The handsome faces of the triplets were filled with fear. Of course, they knew that Qin Yun's mental strength was strong and he had some defense. However, they never expected it to be so terrifying. It was several times stronger than their mental strength. After the three of them were hit by Qin Yun's spirit concentration kill, their minds were in chaos. When Qin Yun saw this, he seized the opportunity and used the fire cloud steps to its limits. In an instant, he arrived in front of one of them and roared out with the heavenly lion's roar, sending that person flying out of the battling platform. Roar! Roar! Following that, two more roars were heard. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.